from the Drew Estate Cigar Studio in Boston, Massachusetts. Welcome to the Spare Notes series with your hosts, Matt Tabacco and William Cooper.
And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Spare Notes series. It is Saturday night, and that means it's time for myself and William Cooper to get together and talk about the latest digs, the latest beefs, the latest dramas and gossips. That's right. I know what I said earlier, Coop. I wasn't confused. It's Spare Notes series. Welcome to another episode of the show. This week, we are bringing on Smokin Tobacco's Mitchell Santaga. So, Mitchell, welcome to another show. This is
Welcome.
yeah,
Thank you.
This kid's going big league now.
Could be happy to have him tonight.
I know. I promised him. You can do the Spare Notes show. You can come hang out with Coop and me on Saturday night when the real fun happens.
Yeah, I'm ready for my debut. Some razzle and dazzle.
So
Yeah, it made a lot of sense too because I'm on the road and sometimes things can happen. So it was great that you were able to come and we were all. But it's better we're all here.
So first of all, before we get too wild, what is everyone smoking?
Coop, you can do the honors. You can go first.
Yeah, I'm smoking the Monte Cristo 1935 anniversary in the demi size. Not the best light here, but fantastic cigar. Monte Cristo 1935, number 12 cigar of the year on Coop last year. So I'm happy.
Very nice, very nice. Any drink pairings? Some Diet Coke?
Gatorade. They didn't have Diet Coke.
Gatorade.
Gatorade Zero. He's trying to watch his figure.
Gatorade. Nice. Yeah, I'm lighting up the Yagua.
Nice.
Nice cigar. Nice.
Yeah. It's got a nice funky shape to it. This one doesn't look like I've seen some of them where they almost get like a penta shape because they're right in the middle and they just get super squished. This is more like a angular box press. It's really nice, and I always like pairing my stuff with a nice whiskey. So one of the only Canadian whiskeys that has won a Whiskey of the Year award, Alberta Premium. This is 66% or 132 proof.
Yeah, I've known about Alberta Premium for a while, and I haven't seen it in the U.S., at least where I live. So that's definitely on my list of things to try. I have been wanting to try that for a while. I'm actually smoking one of Mitchell's favorite brands. I'm smoking the All Saints St. Francis Colorado Churchill. I also have a St. Francis Miter and a Camacho Factory Unleashed Toro on deck for later in the show. I am drinking kind of basic tonight. I got my handle of Maker's Mark.
Hey, Maker's always good.
It's what this in some liquor stores, this is the big bottle. This is the 1.75, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of times you see this in liquor stores and it's like $60. I found this for like $45 the other day, and I'm like, that's honestly not a bad deal for that, that giant bottle. And it goes too. It's
Now Maker's, I find Maker's goes really well with cigars.
It does.
I got a Mickey Peg update.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Mickey Peg update.
Mickey Peg will be on my flight to Nicaragua on Monday.
Wow.
Nice. Hopefully you guys are seat buddies.
I was just gonna say that.
Well, the thing is, I'm gonna be flying out of Miami, which are where I'm heading to now, and there's a TGI Fridays where you could smoke in the Miami airport. And
Oh, that's right. That's right.
The last time I flew out of the airport, I ran into Mickey Peg there, so it's kind of become our place. But yeah, he's gonna be down there for Festival Week as well, so pretty excited.
It's funny. I was supposed to talk to Mickey yesterday. It didn't happen. So I was just thinking.
I'm sure
about
he's
him
busy
too.
trying to get to Nicaragua.
Yeah, no, I know. And I'll have to talk to him when he gets back. But
Coop.
it's just funny you bring that up.
Coop will be sitting in first class, and Mickey will be all the way in the back trying to scrounge some leg room or something.
Dude, yeah.
You know what's funny? Every time I fly to the Dominican, I'm on the same flight as Nestor Miranda, and that guy is always in first class. I mean,
Of course,
he'll
dude.
stick his son-in-law in coach, but Nestor will be in first class all the time. And the best though is when one time he was buying us drinks at the airport flying back, which was really cool. So Nestor's cool.
Nice.
I don't think we've had him on our show yet. Have you had him on your show?
We've had him on. I've interviewed him a few times, even go back to Stogie Geeks. And he, in my opinion, he gave the greatest answer for why he got started smoking cigars. And he said, it's because I want to impress the chicks.
Damn.
He actually said that.
It's a good reason.
This is, honest answer. It was the best answer we ever got. So,
Yeah, you know that's an honest answer.
yeah.
So what's funny is, Mitch, I don't know. I think you weren't dialed in because you were late. But that's okay.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're a rookie, and the rookies are usually late because they don't know better. But that's okay. You still made it for the show. But I digress.
I ran here from work.
I'm sure you did. I digress. Listen, you're the rookie, so you're gonna have to get some hazing. We all had to go through it.
Yeah.
I got, the first time I talked to Coop, I got yelled at.
I was already hung up on it.
Dude, I got screamed at. I got a novel. I was like, okay, sorry. You got to earn your stripes.
Oh, yeah.
But no, it's funny. So before you got on, so Coop's in Florida, and he's in a smoking room at a hotel. And it was funny because he says to me, he goes, I told them that I had to check their Wi-Fi before I checked in, because if the Wi-Fi don't work, then we're going to have an issue. So he went full commitment tonight. He went full commitment tonight. He made sure he was ready to go. He even told them, like, listen, if this Wi-Fi don't work, I'm gonna have to find another hotel because I need an establishment that's got some speed. So
we don't fool around with hotel rooms.
Yeah, we don't fool around.
You get a smoking room. This is a nice smoking room. It's not the best backdrop, but I just didn't want everyone peeking in my room from the patio.
That's okay. You're on the road. I mean, it's hard to bring a studio with you on the road. But you're making it work. I just want to point out,
Coop's got the kind of like the 1960s detective vibe going. He's just like, I'm on the case. I'm here.
I'm waiting for him to be like, so where were you on Friday night at 7
exactly.
But you know what? I can't move this but it's a very modern room. I got like a very big TV in here and just completely modern. So I'm not complaining. But the backdrop, everyone's saying it looks like the 60s and this is just standard hotel drapery. Yeah, it's standard hotel drapery. Yeah.
I just wanted to say, and Coop, I know you're a Giants fan too. I don't know if anyone saw the comments during the intro, but Jay Davis is with us. Shout out to Jay Davis, Blue Smoke of Dallas. He's a friend of the show and he's a friend of all of us. Jay had said, let me find it. Because I like to put Jay on the spot. Only a Patriots fan would schedule spare notes during a Giants game. And I said, the Giants are done anyway. Who cares? And then he said, was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor or when it was 28-3? Let's stop right there before we continue. First of all, different situation on the Pearl Harbor thing. The Giants, no. On the second part of that comment, Tom Brady. That's all I need to say. You guys don't have Tom Brady. You never will.
He goes twice to the Giants.
Yeah.
He goes twice to the Giants in the Super Bowl. Remember that.
He
still
got 7 rings. He's still got 7 rings, Coop. That's all that matters. He's still got 7 rings.
He needs to retire. I don't want to see him end his career like on a down note.
Like Brett Favre did?
Right. Well, Brett Favre was an egomaniac, right? But more like Peyton Manning. Except Peyton Manning got that Super Bowl. That was the difference. But I don't want to see Tom Brady going out struggling. So I think he should have retired last year, but that's just me.
I think Brady's an egomaniac too. And then, well, it's funny is the next comment from him was, "Yeah, it's over. Damn, I hate the Dirty Birds." Well, he knew it was over.
What's the score?
21-0.
Yeah. Yeah.
But look, I'll say this again: for this coach to clean up the mess that we had for 6 years of Ben McAdoo, Pat Shurmur, and Joe Judge, and to get this team to the second round. Oh, listen, I'm not going to complain. They're playing a really good Eagles team, and I just hope I'll root for the Eagles or the Niners to take care of the Cowboys at this point.
Yeah, I was going to say, Coop, you're probably walking out of this game happy either way. Giants win, you're happy. Eagles win, you're happy. And
yeah, I don't hate the Eagles except when they play the Giants. But I also love the Niners too. So it's going to be interesting if it's those two teams because I really like both teams.
Yeah, shout out. Isn't that Robbie Raz's team?
Yeah.
I think we played the Seahawks played them first round, and I said go Hawks, and he said, I'll never talk to you again.
Wait, which
Well,
team is Robbie's? Because Robbie's a San Francisco guy, isn't he?
yeah,
Yeah.
Niners.
Yeah, Niners. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I said go Seahawks, and he said I'll never talk to you again. It's like, I'm sorry, they're the closest team to me.
Bear hates the Seahawks because of Pete Carroll. He cannot stand Pete Carroll. He just like when Bear can't stand the guy. Look, you just want to get out of his way. But look, Pete Carroll's done a great job.
Well, hold on.
This year.
No, his. You mentioned something about Bear. When he can't stand a guy, he may not like Pete Carroll, but nothing compares to his hatred for Chevy Chase. I mean, that's just like a whole nother level.
There's a whole other level. There's a whole other
Anyway,
level,
continue.
And he brings it on himself with Chevy Chase because he constantly, like I know. Look, I bring it on myself with Kapler, so I admit it, right? And so.
It's 2023, and we've already heard the first Kapler comment. There we go.
Yes.
There we go. It's the first one of the year. I haven't heard one
Let me
yet.
tell you something. You mentioned Robbie Raz, and I love him. Right? He's a great friend. But Robbie Raz and I have had some very heated discussions over Kapler. I mean, to the point where we've gotten mad at I really don't want that. So I've always, backed off, and he backs off, and we just let cooler minds prevail. But we've had some heated conversations about the manager. Trust me.
Hey, it's important friends can dish it out like that and walk away and still enjoy a cigar together.
Although he'll delete any Kapler comment on his Facebook wall now, and he's not fooling around about that. So
yeah, can't stop us here.
Yeah.
So we got a nice little intro here with the sports talk, but it's time to get down to business. But before we get down to business, I just want to point out that tonight we cut and light our cigars with Cigar Blondie Accessories. That's right. If you head over to cigarblondie.com, you can check out the amazing Cigar Blondie cutter and lighter set. There's the cutter. This is the sleek, sexy, flat blade flame right there. They come in 3 finishes, chrome, black, and white, and they are available at cigarblondie.com.
And I would have mine, except Nicaragua is one of the toughest countries to get a lighter out of.
That's fine.
That's what I'll tell you. So I wasn't fooling around with that. And people who've gone to Nicaragua know that. So I'm
Mitchell,
taking lighters there that I'm just planning on leaving behind.
Mitchell, I got to I got to get you a set of those too. Don't let me forget.
Hey, you gotta send me some of those. Those lighters look really good. I love those kind of middle blade flame lighters. They just like nice and accurate. Light up really well.
It's like having a soft flame, but with a jet flame. Is the way I look at it. It really toasts the cigar well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah, it does.
It really is. It's one of my favorite lighters.
Yeah.
Whoop.
Nice. Look at that. I just wanted to say this Yagua, it's really good. This is a first time I'm trying it, and Matt had mentioned there's probably a couple years on this.
Yeah.
This is really nice.
Yeah, I think
nice spice.
That's either
good flavor.
A 21 or a 22 release. So that box has been
sitting.
A 2020 or a 2021.
Yeah, they age very good. So I mean, they are. I was just mentioning they're purposely underaged, a little under fermented when they do it. But you just got to let them age. The sad part is it'll lose a little bit of its shape, but you'll get a better cigar in the end.
That's fine. No,
it's a good cigar.
It's really good.
Good cigar. They did a good cigar, and it's not badly priced either.
Did those come out this year?
Like $8.
They did.
Yeah.
Yeah. The boxes tend to go quick on that. Like we were, I think Matt, we were like some of us got those boxes the first year from them, and I think we got some the second year. I don't think they sent them out this year, but they that was pretty fun. We did unboxings on those. The packaging is amazing on that cigar.
Yeah, that's where I got it from. They sent them out and they sent us a box, and I've had a good handful of them, but I still have half a box left, and so I sent one up to Mitchell. Because the thing about Mitchell being in Canada is that he lives in the Cuban territory, so there's not their availability for cigars is like Cuban, and then there's New World. So it's been me really trying to pump as many different cigars up to him as I can, so that way he can really experience what some of the best cigars in the world really are in 2023. And so far, he's been really impressed with a lot of different things that he otherwise hasn't really known much of.
That's great to see. I know from talking to John McTavish, who lives in Alberta, it's a struggle. It is definitely a
Yeah.
struggle. So, I feel for you guys because we're spoiled. Like I was gonna say, I've traveled in a lot of countries. We are absolutely spoiled in the U.S. when it comes to humidors. There's not another country that has humidors like the U.S. I've seen Mexico, I've seen the Dominican Republic, I've seen Europe, and there's nothing like U.S. humidors. We're spoiled here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're very spoiled.
Yep.
We're very lucky. Very lucky, we should say.
Yeah.
Very lucky.
Yep. Yeah, we are. We are.
Coop, I'm going to let you start us off tonight on the list of topics. So wherever you want to begin.
Yeah. I just let me pull it up. I apologize.
That's
I should
okay.
have it in front of me. So yeah, I gave. So let's see. Are you okay with every one of these or no?
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about the J.C. Newman Tobacco Farm, because we're on the topic of J.C. Newman. I thought this was one of the great feel-good stories to start the year off. So if folks haven't heard, and there was an article on Coop on this, J.C. Newman is going to be opening a tobacco farm in Ybor City. And what's happening is J.C. Newman's trying to really uh, resonate the North Ybor City area. So it's the highway, it's the area north of I-4. Most of Ybor City is south of I-4. But the north area, it's kind of been a little bit run down. And they first started with a factory renovation. Then they opened up the factory museum. They're renovating a hotel, and they're going to make it into a hotel restaurant and cigar lounge across the street. They're opening a cigar park on the other corner, which is basically going to be, they're calling it Cigar Workers Park. And part of why they did that is because they had to get the bats out of the building they bought for the hotel. So they had to put these bats somewhere, right? So they created a park where they're going to have a bat sanctuary there. And now what they're doing is they're going to bring growing tobacco to the Ybor City area, which, according to them, there's no record of them ever growing tobacco in this area. So Jeff's growing tobacco in Claremont, which is about an hour away, maybe about 45 minutes away. And JC was already doing some test crops in the parking lot, literally, right now at that place. And the plan is they're going to have a small farm, and they're going to eventually try to use some of these tobaccos. I imagine they'll be for very small batch releases. But I think it's a great story. I think this is just a great story. They're turning this area, I think by 2030, this area is going to be the attraction in the U.S. for cigars. I think it's going to be great with it. Really, it's exciting to see this happen.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, we continue to see them expand. They redid the factory. Then they had the situation with the Sanchez Yahya Hotel, and now they're doing this. They got the Cigar Makers Park. It seems like J.C. Newman is really trying to capitalize on everything that they can to. I don't want to use the term bring back, but I mean, I think bring back as much cigar culture to the United States that was lost. I think they're the perfect company to do it. They got a long history. They have that reputation, historic family. And I think as they continue to do these projects successfully, I think you might see others maybe do similar things.
Yeah.
Which I think is going to be great.
Yeah, I got to give to Bear some credit because Bear and I went there right before the renovation started. He saw that building, right, where the hotel's going, and he actually said to me, man, wouldn't it be cool if they put a cigar hotel there, right? And this is like a year before they even announced this. So he actually said that, and I was like, damn, that would be a great idea. But I think the Newmans are doing a great job locally in Tampa promoting themselves. They have very good media connections. And I think eventually they're going to work this where they're going to get the trade show is going to be in Tampa before the end of this decade. I really believe that.
I was going to say the same thing.
They got some work to do. They're going to have to do some and I don't know if they need to do some things on size and smoking permits, but they're so well connected in that community right now. It's so well respected that if anyone can do it, I think it's them. And I think Drew Newman, who's really the visionary behind a lot of this, he's just got a vision. And I talked to him when I was there, and I could tell this guy had a lot of vision. That museum thing was just the beginning. So, Mitchell, if you get to the Tampa, this is an absolute must-go to.
Yeah, definitely. If I can go down there, I'm definitely planning in the future years to try to get to some cruises down there. So hopefully I can kind of plan, maybe get 3-4 days in Tampa and then do some cruises out of Florida. So
Yeah,
the other thing I'm really interested in is, do you know what kind of seed they're planning on planting down there, or?
Mm.
they did.
Great
They didn't
question.
say. They didn't say. Now,
Uh,
my guess. This is my guess. Is I think they'll go with a Corojo seed similar to what Jeff went with. Right.
Yes.
yeah,
And Jeff's got a good relationship with them. This is not a competitive situation. I would imagine Jeff's going to be very supportive of this. Again, I haven't heard a comment from Jeff yet. He was traveling, but I know he's got a great relationship with the Newmans, and I think the Corojo crop has just worked well in that Central Florida area. So that's my guess on that. Jeff tried Criollo; it didn't work out as well as the Corojo.
yeah, it'd be interesting to see, some Corojo, or possibly just so many people right now are messing with broadleaf, with the new double broadleaf coming out of Honduras, and you'll probably see in the next 2 to 3 years lots of Nicaraguan broadleaf based things. And I think people are realizing that broadleaf can be grown outside of Connecticut, but we can't expect to have the same flavor profile as that Connecticut kind of broadleaf. It's the same seed, but just expect something different and new. But it can survive outside of Connecticut.
You know where they grow broadleaf and people don't realize it is in Wisconsin. And
Oh,
Saka's used it in that release, the Dondura that he did for Ronnie Haysha. So I know the broadleaf they grow, though, it hasn't been very conducive to cigars. That's why it hasn't been used. But I'm guessing, again, with the problems Connecticut's having and people just looking for new broadleaf sources, that eventually we're going to see more Wisconsin broadleaf on premium cigars. But I think they probably have to do some. They're probably going to have to do some agricultural engineering to make that viable for
And
cigars.
and,
yeah,
and
I
Jay
can see
added
that.
in, as many of us know, broadleaf in Pennsylvania as well as Indiana.
There you go.
There you
Indiana
go. See,
broadleaf.
I didn't know about the Indiana. Good job, Jay.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. I mean,
I haven't heard Indiana
Pennsylvania
either.
I knew, but
Yeah.
Yeah, according to what I've understood, is a tobacco plant can really grow anywhere, but the key is the soil, the conditions, and So, but because from my understanding, you can grow like Corojo in North Carolina, but there's a reason why cigarette tobacco in North Carolina are not like premium tobacco. I don't
Right.
think they've been able to. I do know a couple of companies were playing with some Virginia tobacco in their blends a few years ago.
that's interesting.
Yeah. Yep.
Which
But
again is
I-
a lot
I-
of cigarette tobacco normally from Virginia.
Yeah, and pipe tobacco too.
Right.
There was Burley that a couple companies were playing with. So
And it's funny, Mitchell mentioned, a lot of people are playing around with broadleaf, but another one that I see a lot of, and I feel like everyone's doing something with, is Sumatra. You see a lot of broadleaf, you see a lot of Sumatra, Habano, obviously, there's a lot of Habano. So to see, I know that we've talked, there's a couple companies that are going to be working with Corojo more. And it's nice to see that. It's nice to see that. Instead of, because I feel like a lot of times there just seems to be a lot of the same usual suspects.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I was that Alec Brack double broadleaf is a really good cigar. I know you guys had him on the other night, and from what I understand, that double broadleaf was a Bradley Rubin project, and he really spearheaded a lot of that. And it's kind of funny because I just felt when I smoked that, I said, man, they were going for something that they didn't have in their portfolio, like something Tatawaye-esque or something Dunbarton-esque. And I think they did a really good job. I think that cigar is, like I said, it's something I think is going to be a contender on my end of year list in 2023. It came out a little too late, but I've already bought a box of that cigar to give you an idea how much I like it.
Yeah, I got to get my hands on some of those. Everyone's saying they're smoking really well, and yeah, I just heard Bradley talking about it as well, and that's exactly what he said. He kind of spearheaded the whole thing from packaging to concept to finalizing the blend and everything, and kind of coming out with this binder and wrapper broadleaf concept, kind of almost by accident, but then it worked.
Yeah. They were
I don't-
playing with Broadway for a while too. I know that. Yeah.
I don't know if he's still in here, but I know Kevin Acuff has commented too. I know he was watching, but I know him and his wife Barbara, for those who know them, they're also huge on the Alec Alec Bradley double broadleaf. That's they were the first people that I know that were raving about it, and I was like, really? And like, yeah, like and it was like and I made the comment the other night when Bradley was on with Abe and Alex. Like every time I talk to them, somehow, some way in the conversation, the Alec Bradley double broadleaf comes up. Like they love that cigar, and slowly but surely, I've been hearing more and more and more and more people raving about that cigar, and um, it's really hats off to them for making a cigar like that. We had Nick Melillo on the show last week, and talking to him about, I forget what I said to him, but there was a question. Mitchell, I know you watched that show, so maybe you can refresh my memory. Yep. But somewhere in the conversation, it came up about making cigars that are so critically acclaimed, and and Nick said it best. He's like, look, you go into a project, and you put a lot of energy and a lot of effort into these blends and different tobaccos, and you want to experiment with stuff, and you're trying to do something that's kind of different, and you're trying to get real creative, and then when these cigars come out, you hope for the best. I mean, to you they're great, to your team they're great, and then they go out there, and then the consumers really decide. And when the consumers are like off the walls about it, I mean, it's just such a big feeling, because it's like, it could be a really good cigar, but then when people are just like raving about it, so like when you hear about these cigars that people are just always talking about time and time again, it's a huge accomplishment in itself, just not only to make a good cigar, but to make a great cigar. So
Yeah,
I mean, hats off to those guys.
Yeah, you know what was interesting about the Bradley? So I was at Alec Bradley headquarters last May, and Bradley hands me the 4x60 chunk size of the double broadleaf, which was unbanded.
Yeah.
He tells me, go home and smoke it on a clean pallet. And I went home and smoked it. I said, I bet you these guys are going to be distributing someone, right? Because this tasted nothing like an Alec Bradley. And I like Alec Bradley stuff, but I'm like, this is so far different. I said, and I had I didn't know what they were doing. I mean, I should have figured out it was broadleaf, but I didn't. But I'm like, maybe they're going to distribute someone, was all I was thinking, right? Because this was completely different. And it turned out, like, when I saw them announce it and they had the chunk size, I knew what I had at that point. I'm like, wow, they did a great job with that.
Well, it's funny, and I know you don't want to get into end of the year stuff tonight, Coop, because I know we're waiting for a couple of things to finish. But
yeah,
I'm just going to highlight, because we're talking about this, since we were on last time, your number one cigar of the year came out, and it was the Alec Bradley.
Fine and Rare.
Yeah, Fine and Rare.
Yeah.
I blanked on the first part of that. So I mean, again, another Alec Bradley cigar. It's Coop's number one for 2022. I had them on my. Last week we talked about my my lists that we put together. I forget, where did I have them on my watch list? I think I had them on the watch list. And
I disagreed with it, but it was because I had him almost as a power player, actually.
I feel like I should have put that. I'll be honest with you. I feel like that should have been more on that hot list that we did.
Yeah,
but I will say, in my defense, there was some disagreements on the team, but I think it should have been. I think it should have been there, and especially once the end of the year stuff came out and I kind of refreshed. I'm like, yeah, we definitely missed that one.
There's a change that's happened at Alec Bradley in the last few years. The boys have come in there, and they've just and look, they have great expertise with Alan Rubin and Ralph Montero. But I think what the boys did is they kind of opened up like this. They're really well connected with the market. I remember when I interviewed them in 2018, they had just kind of come on board with the Alec and Bradley project, and I was surprised what they smoke everything out there. They weren't just smoking Alec Bradley. They chased down cigars, and I think they started. I think that just gave them ears to the ground with a lot more what was going on, and I think they're incorporating those things, and they got the talent again. Their dad and Ralph Montero, I think they're more the people who blended the fine and rare. But I guarantee you, these guys had input into it and saying, and that's why the last two fine and rare blends have been the best too, I think. So it was the bad thing about that number one is it's limited, and what I have left I need for Cigar of the Decade. So I have to hold like the remaining ones. But I have Aaron Nielsen trying to track me down a box. So
Coop, you literally stole the words out of my mouth. I was going to say that exact same thing. Like Alec and Bradley stepping in a bit more into the production side and adding their points into blending has almost given them the modern flavor of cigar, right? Like Alec and Bradley have always been classics, right? They always consistent, great cigars, but the Suns have now injected this modernism into it, both in packaging, in flavors, in dynamics of the cigar, and it's really putting them on the map. Like, you know, they were already on the map before, but now it's like, you know, they're winning cigars of the year. They're you know, people were raving. You weren't necessarily raving about, but the people were raving about Kintsugi from Alec and Bradley. Like, people loved that cigar.
I didn't like it, but I gotta say, I think it was more me than everyone. Like, because here's the deal. That cigar,
even in Canada, a lot of people smoke it up here. I see a lot of bands of Kintsugi up here.
So I started telling the boys, I said, I think you guys are gonna win the or not win the. You guys are gonna be very high on the consensus, right? And they're like, "You sure?" I'm like, "I'm telling you, this is showing up on a lot of lists, and I think it landed top 10 on the consensus last year." So
I think so too. I'd have to
lot of
check that.
What I didn't like about it was I thought it was the least Alec and Bradley like cigar. I thought it smoked like the original Alec Bradleys, which aren't bad cigars, but that's what that cigar seemed like. But I think it also kind of maybe opened some eyes up to people who maybe didn't give Alec Bradley a chance. That, hey, you know what? They have some very good heritage blends in there too. You know, I go back to the Coil's a great cigar. The Prince, I like the Prensados. That Gran Bellicoso is great in that. So they have some excellent cigars. They discontinued Mundial, unfortunately, which was great. I wish they didn't discontinue that.
You know, they got to get rid of SKUs sometimes, and
you know, it's a business, and the thing is, they can always bring it back. So there's no reason. Like, we've seen it happen 100 times. Like, Avo discontinued the Maduro, and it comes back a few years later. So, you know, sometimes the timing's right to kind of pull it. Yeah.
Sorry, Coop, for the silence, but do you remember that thing we talked about earlier today? And we said we were gonna.
Yeah, you can bring it up. I'm fine bringing it up. Yeah.
Well, no. I got some information, and we'll have to talk later because I don't want to spoil it. So I.
Okay. Whatever you want. Yep.
I think we're not far off, but it's not exactly what we thought.
Okay.
So that's exciting.
You're right. It was number 7 on the consensus in 2021. Just
look at this. He's doing his homework. Yeah, this is good homework, Mitchell. Yeah, it was like I said.
Look at this kid go.
Look, it clearly resonated with the reviewers last year. It really did.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, it wasn't my cup of tea. It wasn't developing palate's cup of tea. But that's okay. You don't have to. I mean, you don't have to love every cigar. I mean, so. And most people have thick.
What makes this great.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few people who have very thin skin in this industry when it comes to their cigars, but Alec and Bradley are pretty. They have thick skin, as well as Alan Rubin. So, you know, I just think I like what I'm seeing out of them right now for sure. And I think they had. The other thing is, Mac calls me yesterday or this morning. Yesterday he messaged me. Did you see the half wheel list? I'm like, no, right? He's like, you got to look at it, right? And because obviously you both have the same number 1, but
different size, but yes.
But he hinted to me there was something else I should look at, and yes, they had the Alec Bradley Fine and Rare on their top. It was like 13, I think. So it's kind of a little bit of validation because not a lot of people had that cigar on lists. I don't think anyone had Fine and Rare until I had it, and then they had it. So at least it's a little bit of validation because you know those guys do their homework. So
I'm like itching. I'm itching to talk about end of the year stuff, but. I know we agreed to wait, but I have so much.
Yeah,
to say.
And look, we're waiting because every year we get we're later with our stuff. So
I know
the awards are rolling out next week, and then we have our show. So we just this year every year we bastardize our show, unfortunately. So we've kind of all made a gentleman's agreement to before we go on other shows and talk about it, we're gonna get that done. So
let me ask you a question. Can we do a consensus predictions? Is that on the table?
Consensus is out already.
Nope.
Consensus
Monday.
Consensus is Monday.
Yeah, you can do a consensus prediction. I have no problem with that.
So,
I don't know what's taking number 1. It's hard. I think it's between 3 cigars.
I think I have the order, but yeah, I think we're gonna have the same 3 cigars.
See, for me, I thought I had a good I thought I had a good idea before the half wheel in-house list came out, And then I saw that list, and I said, that changes a couple of things. I mean, not
That
completely.
list doesn't weight more though.
Right. I mean,
Every list weights the same.
so I was like, that's interesting. But I still think, first of all, Saka's going to be all over that list. I mean,
Now,
let's just get the easy ones out of the way. We know
here's the
Saka's going to
problem
be
with
up on that
Saka.
list.
Did he make it last year with Paladin? Yeah, he did. I have this up.
Yeah,
I think
that
he
was-
like
that was
number
a-
2.
Paladin was
was
number
so-
2.
I got in a lot of
So-
hot water with that. So
So can he make Paladin? Can the Paladin make it again? Like, is that even allowed?
yes,
Has a cigar ever made the consensus twice?
yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Technically.
So
Saka made it several years in a row with Silver Mesa.
yeah. Oh yeah. That's right. So, the problem is that he has the Bewitched, he has the Sakakan, and he has the Paladin. And there were some people that decide to only put like, oh, I'm just going to put one brand, and I feel like this cigar was the best from that brand. And sometimes that can mess the numbers up because now he's got numbers that are skewing 3 ways, and they were all, they all placed well on lists. So I feel like at least one of those is going to make the consensus, possibly even 2 of them. He might even hit 2 on the consensus with I think it would be between the Sakakan and the Paladin. I don't think it's going to be number 1 though. I don't think Saka's going to get number 1 consensus this year.
I don't either.
Well, so I'm predicting he will get number 1 Saka Khan.
Really?
You think the Sakakan will be the number 1 consensus?
I think it'll be number 1 consensus on Monday.
Okay.
Number 2.
I think it will be the Olmec.
The Olmec Maduro.
Yep.
Okay.
That will be my number 2, and then number 3 will be Espinosa, Knuckle Sandwich, and Habano.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say my list would go 1 Olmec, 2 Sakakan, and 3 Knuckle Sandwich. But it's gonna be, it really, I'd have to see what list they're taking from, and like again their algorithm, it depends on where it's placing and how often. But those 3 I think definitely were on a lot of lists. We placed well, and I don't think I'd be surprised if it's any other 3 cigars in the top 3.
I do think Paladin to Saka's top 10, and I think
Yeah.
Alfonso will get top 10 as well now, because now it's got like 3 number 1s, I think. So
Well, the only problem with that is we gave it number 1. They gave it number 1. It got number 1, I think, on the Ash Holes podcast, but I don't know if the Ash Holes podcast gets counted in the consensus.
I don't know. I don't know either.
I don't think
And
so.
I don't think it
because
does. It's a retail store. Retail
Dave is
store
on
show.
there now, and he's promoting a 6-pack on it or something like that.
But if I remember
So-
correctly, Dave and 2 guys in the Scar Authority, all that is usually disqualified because they're a retailer. So
Yeah, which I agree. By the way, I know Dave doesn't like it, and if he's listening, I'm sorry, but I do agree with that.
No, I agree with it.
It's a tough one, and look, Cigar Authority very much is a media brand.
It is.
And they operate like a media brand. But unfortunately, there's other retailers who do this type of stuff that don't operate as a media brand. So you can't you can't just include these guys and not the other guys. You just can't. And like I said, I know he's probably going to be mad at me for saying that, but it's nothing to discredit because they have a true media operation. I've been there, man. I was really impressed.
Oh, yeah.
They operate very much like a media entity. So that's not taking anything away from what they do. Yeah.
I mean,
Now
I would
here's
say.
my thing with. Oh, go ahead, Matt.
Oh yeah, sorry. I was just gonna say, I understand the logic behind it. I wish their stuff could be on that list because their cigar of the year list usually pulls in some attention too, and I think it's a big deal. But I also understand the logic behind it, so it's kind of a two-edged sword there, and it is what it is. But yeah, I think that would be the only thing with the Alfonso. I don't know if that placed on any other lists.
So
I think Dojo
here's-
gave it number 1 luxury.
Exactly. I was gonna say.
I saw it on a few others. I did see it on a few others.
So yeah, it could have the weight to get at least in the top 10.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know if Half Wheel is going to consider like a side selection like that. Like again, I think what Dojo do like kind of 2 lists. It's like main, regular, and then limited, and then they've got some other like awards for like 3 or 4 other, like I think Saka won like special cigar of the year, or I forget what they called it, but it was
they created some category for
yeah,
the Stillwell Star, which I
to get the
didn't
Silver
understand. I love Eric, but I didn't understand that. That cigar was out for a month and a half. How does it get a category in its own? Because in reality, the innovation was with the original Stillwell Stars, right?
I think part of it is that their deadline is January 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022, and anything within that time span gets on the list. Once it's beyond that, it's not on the list. So technically, they wouldn't be able to put it on their list for next year. I think that's the main thing.
So the only way I would do that, right, and this is me, is I'd probably do my list in May if that was the case. But to do a cigar of the year list in May is like stupid, right? No one's gonna pay attention. So
Exactly. So
I changed my year from November 1st to October 31st, but nothing after the trade show gets considered because and the other problem is with that is it's as a reviewer, and I believe every cigar on the list should, if you're a reviewer, every cigar on the list should be reviewed. There was always this push at the end of the year where you had all these cigars stacked up, and it was just you weren't doing it justice anymore. So that's why I changed it.
Jay asked. Sorry, I just want to add this in here. Jay asked, are Cuban cigars considered in the consensus? I believe so, if I remember correctly.
I believe so. I think there may have been 1 or 2 years it happened, but again, most of the reviewers in the U.S. are not reviewing Cubans, and especially in the calendar year, it's almost impossible, to do it because they're hard to get some of those Cubans.
Well, Charlie made a very good point at the end of the top 25 show, because they bring up the countries. There was 2 from Costa Rica, there was X amount from Honduras, X amount from the Dominican, and then there was like 15 of them from Nicaragua. And then he made a comment like, notice that there's no Cubans on the list, and he actually addressed something which I think is a good point, and it also kind of goes along with this too. You have to consider as well that Half Wheel and Coop and Smokin Tobacco, most of us, we do the list based on what's new, not the cigar aficionado, like just everybody. And Habanos only put out, I think, 3 new cigars last year, and 2 of them Habanos didn't even acknowledge. So there wasn't even really a lot of new Cuban cigars that came out. So I mean, you're talking like 2 or 3, and then across the people who do review them, who got them, reviewed them, where they ranked. I mean, by the time you break that all down, there's really not a lot to go around. So that also is a factor. But yes, Jay, I think they are eligible, but I don't think there's enough there for what the consensus is.
You know what's interesting about the consensus? I know we're kind of getting on this, but and you know my thing, my feeling on store exclusives, right? I think there were, but let me tell you, you go back to the consensus in 2011, there were a lot of store exclusives showing up on that list at that time. And it's kind of changed over the last few years. What it had, but I remember like Abe's the Smokin stuff was making the consensus. And it was because a lot of people, those cigars were getting put in a lot of people's hands. I think now, unfortunately, the market's just shot itself in the foot, and everyone's doing it. And now,
when you say the Smokin stuff, are you referring to like the micro blends and stuff, or are you referring to the Great Smoke stuff?
Yep, the micro blend stuff.
Okay.
I actually was including that stuff until 2015 is when I decided no longer to include it, and that was because there was so much more national stuff to include at that point. And the other thing, to be honest with you, is the retailers do such a bad job at promoting these shop exclusives that what happens is there's stuff you don't know about, and so it's like and the numbers have gone down every year. I've talked a lot about that. It's just I don't see my audience interested in that anymore. It's just not. There's no interest from my audience in store exclusives anymore. So I've moved on from it, but back then I think there was still some very good ones. Pete was doing some good ones back then. Viaje would show up even on with some of their exclusives. So it's definitely changed. I think the problem is the market's gotten too saturated with that stuff now, and now it's not as good stuff. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kevin made an interesting comment here. I feel that the Cigar of the Year list should be based on a fiscal year.
That's
October
what I do,
1st through September 30th gives you 3 months to get everything together for the end of the year and moves fall holiday releases, which seem to be happening more and more, to the following calendar year.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I'm debating moving the date actually to September 30th too, going forward. I haven't decided that yet, but like I said, nothing after the trade show will be considered anymore. And so the bad part about that is my list has a lot of 2021 stuff on the 22 list. That's the negative that happens with that.
Yes, ours had some as well. Just because of the way certain things fell last year, we did move our timeline this year, as you know, me and Mitchell talked about earlier before we started this year's Cigar of the Year list. We moved it to October. So this year we had more 21 releases on the list, but I think moving forward there'll be less. I mean, there's still going to be some of the prior year, but there won't be as many as there were, say, like this year and the year before.
It really depends how you're looking to do the list, is what I'll say. So if you're someone who like Bear and I, we subscribe to the thought is we want to see how the cigar performs over a period of time. So Bear's list is very similar to that. Aaron Loomis's list is pretty much how did it smoke at that point during the year. So that the one's not wrong. It's a preference thing more than others. So I think there's room and dojos. I think is the same thing. It's how it performed at that point of the year is what they look at. So it's not wrong. It's just a different philosophy.
They also like do a voting system at the end. I think what they have 4 or 5, even 6 people that contribute for dojo that contribute like what they think should be on the list, and they value each point, and then they all argue for like 2 weeks and then come out with a list.
Yeah. I mean, and that's and like I know for example, Developing Palace they base it strictly on the scores and they just composite the scores. But on the other point is I think there is subjectivity that should be, like my opinion, it should be subjective. So like, for example, I had a lot of scores at 92 points, but there was a 91 point cigar that kind of in the end jumped up. So and that can happen when you're looking at something over a period of time.
And I agree with that. I think that's a fair judgment.
Yeah. So
again,
like I said,
no way is wrong.
No way's wrong. There's different ways. Just like I say, if someone wants to include a shop exclusive, there's more power to them. By the way, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't. It's just not what my thing to do. Or if someone wants to, I don't exclude Cubans. And one thing I do is I don't limit the amount of cigars you can get on a list from one company. And I don't at the same time have quotas either. So it's I had several multiples in my top 10 this year, as people know. So.
One of the things I wanted to bring up tonight, kind of a shorter topic, but I wanted to acknowledge it. I know we've talked about it a few times. For those who haven't heard, there is a new vice president of sales in the industry, and it is How About That Cigar's very own Garrett Robinson, who will be the vice president of sales at Don Doroteo Cigars. Very small boutique brand, but wishing him all the best. Coop, I know we had this on the list for tonight, so
yeah,
I just wanted to bring that up and give a shout out to Garrett once again.
Yeah, good for Garrett. First of all, I know Garrett's been high on this brand for a long time, going back to the trade. Good story behind the brand. If you don't know, Don Doroteo, the guy behind the brand, his family used to grow tobacco for La Aurora. Like they were growers, his family. Now the guy who's running Don Doroteo, I forget his name. I should know it. His name's Juan something. He's making the cigars at La Aurora, and they only have one blend now. But I know the line's expanding, and they need someone. So Garrett's going to be like chef, cook, and bottle washer for a while. I don't see him going out and hiring a sales team very quickly. Maybe he'll bring some brokers in, but I don't see him bringing in a in-house team for a while. But it's a low risk move for Garrett and the company. Give Garrett a chance to grow into that role, which I think he's more than capable of doing. So I wish him a lot of luck. It's always good to see a media guy get a shot like this. And if Don Doroteo takes off, I mean, he's going to be in a very nice position in a few years.
Very true.
Definitely, yeah. Congratulations to Garrett.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll always consider him one of us. That's where he came from. And so it's kind of for for us, it's kind of like it's like one of our own. He came from media, and I love those guys to death. So,
Yeah, no, he's good. They're good guys. I had a great time with them in Minnesota.
And he's already said on the show that he's gonna keep everything with Don Doroteo very separate from How About That Cigar. He's been very clear that it's two different paths in his life, and he wants to keep as much bias out of their show as possible. And I think that's like just
Smart.
straight up coming out and saying that. It's just really nice to hear, right? Obviously, it's there's it's impossible to remove all bias, but at least having knowledge that it's there and that he's making the best effort to have it be two separate things is really good to hear.
Yep, I agree. Hey Matt, I see Skip's comment. Do you want to address that one? Because I think you guys have a little history with that maybe we should talk about with the consumer picking.
You know what? Okay, yeah, okay.
I think I understand where he's coming from, but there's a lot of pitfalls with that, and I think you have some firsthand experience with that.
We do. One of the things. First of all, Skip. Very, very honest and very good statement, right?
It is.
But the problem with that is that sometimes those public polls, if they're not really done very well, especially programming and software wise, or just however it's set up, there can be issues with it.
Matt, just say it. Brands will cheat to get more votes.
And hack.
Brands will hack and cheat to get more votes, and that's the problem. And it always has been with all those kinds of things.
Or bribe.
Yep.
I've seen the bribery thing. So
yep.
I remember Cigar Federation years ago, they used to do a bracketology, like an NCAA tournament of cigars, right? And one year, this company called Bodega Cigars won the whole tournament by a landslide, beating out the Opus X in the finale. And there was, again, well, who did these votes come from? Bodega's out of business today, okay? And the cigars were not good, okay? But they were able to, when you could put volume and put things in there that can manipulate that. So it's unfortunate because ideally what Skip says, I would love to see it happen in a pure sense, right? Unfortunately, it never comes out like that.
Hey, Coop, let me ask you a question.
Uh-huh.
Would you say that would you agree with the statement? I would say that the media are also consumers, so you're getting the opinions of a consumer.
Yes and no. I think I think right now I'm no longer an average consumer, because I'm smoking now for reviews so intensely. It's a little different. Where consumers are just smoking strictly for enjoyment.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think we're unfortunately not. That's my opinion. I don't think we're not. And that's not to say we're better than the consumer. I think consumers sometimes really have the pulse. Like I said, I would love to see this purely come out where it's not biased. I saw some things. The problem is, here's another thing. A guy like Steve Saka just won a whole bunch of things from Ash Quarterly, but Saka's popularity cannot be questioned, right? So, again, are the consumers voting because I think there's more of a brand affiliation with those guys as opposed to a blend affiliation. And I think Saka's brand is as hot as they are right now.
Yeah.
And people are just connected with that brand. They connect, so they vote for that. So again, I think maybe that's a good, but there's nothing wrong with that. Maybe there's a good representation for how hot soccer is right now. But I think what we do is we're looking more at blend evaluation for the best cigar.
And I have been part of like some fan or consumer based voting things where like they'll do bracketology, like brand on brand kind of things. I've seen a few people do that on Instagram, and at the end of the day, like the media corporation that was doing it, they had an affiliation with one brand, and like they outright always say like, we really like this brand, and that brand came out winning it all, even though they might not have necessarily, and it's like, they don't necessarily mean to be biased, but they're just like, yeah, we just like these guys, they come on our show a lot, blah, 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 and so their fans like that brand. And so it is, no matter how you look at it, with all of these voting things, we just have to come out at the end of the day and say there's bias, acknowledge the bias, and that's why and take what we can from each its own list,
Great point.
right?
Great point. And look, as a media person, I have to have a subjectivity. People are asking me what I think was good. You go to a trade show, they're asking what you think is good. And I have to tell them, and especially, this is where we differ from the influencers. If something's bad, I got to say it. I mean, it's not, I don't want to hurt feelings or anything, but, you know, it's, and I'm not saying I'm better than anyone, but that's what kind of my role is. On the other hand, with consumers, I think what's really interesting is when this whole Ash Quarterly thing happened, I think it just showed how powerful soccer is. And I think there is a measurement and a place to show that. You know, right now, could someone top Steve in the next couple of years with this? That's now what I'm wondering is, like, what do they do in the next couple of years? Does Ash Quarterly does someone eventually top soccer on the Ash Quarterly thing? So I'm interested in it. I'm not discounting it at all. But I think it's different from what we do.
I agree, you know, and I think you made a good point, you know, and the influencer conversation has definitely been one that's popped up a lot in the last couple of years, but I think there is a universal truth to the difference between us and them. It's not
there's some really good ones out there. So I don't want to knock them all. Yeah.
Right, and it's not a disrespect thing, but there is definitely a fine line between just promoting cigars and making them, you know, and promoting brands or specific cigars or whatever, and, you know, actually sitting here and saying, like, I think that they missed the boat on this cigar. Doesn't taste right, I mean, doesn't burn right. You gotta the thing, and I think the other thing that really differentiates the media from the average consumer is that we do get, for the most part, way more analytical over a lot of pieces, whether it's the cigars, the companies, whatever. Yeah. And then we have to go out there and give a full statement as to why yay or nay. So yay or nay, and they have to explain why. You know, especially when you're reviewing a cigar. I mean, you're not, when you smoke a cigar for a review, it's not like you're hanging out enjoying the cigar. Like, you're smoking that and you're paying so much attention to it. You're following every little aspect of it, the way it burns, the way it draws, the flavor, how it transitions. There's so many things that happen, and you do that multiple times that you're not really sitting there just mindlessly enjoying the cigar. I mean, this cigar is good. Like, you're almost, you're too focused on the cigar to really be enjoying it. Taking notes, writing things down, you know, being very critical of it. That for me is kind of a big difference.
Yeah. I think it's like I said, it's what, like, some people don't like it, but there is an expectation. The worst thing I could do is recommend a cigar, and it's a freaking dog rock, right? Then how do I look, right?
It's
now
happened.
Now I hear the people say, don't talk about it. Well, the problem is, again, that you have to talk about it, right? You have to, right? Because then we're not doing our job, right? So the idea is not, we shouldn't be destructive with it. We shouldn't be personal about it. But you know, there was one cigar this year that was reviewed on Coop. It really scored low from Ben Lee, and there were problems with that cigar. It turned out internally, we found out later on. And the company didn't get mad at us. There was issues, and they knew why it scored bad. So, you know, it's you know, it happens.
It does. And while we're on the topic, I was listening to the Cigar Authority today, and Barry I remembered that Barry wrote a piece on influencers for Cigar Journal, and I think it comes out in the next issue. So I'm very curious to see what he wrote, because if anybody knows Barry, I can only imagine.
I hope Barry was objective on that, because there are some really good influences out there that I would hate to see, but look, we have bad apples on the media side too. So I think it's fair to say, all the influencers are bad. Look, there are media guys that I think need to get the hell out, right? I mean, but same with the influence. There's good apples and bad apples. It's just a different paradigm that what they're doing, as far as that goes.
As far as that goes.
Yeah, but I'm curious to see. I know Barry's got some opinions, because when I was up there, I remember we had this conversation. So I'm curious. I didn't know about this. So this is interesting. I'm gonna have to see this.
Mitchell's been trying to say something for the last 4 minutes.
Yeah, go ahead, man. I just
saw
I'm sorry.
Coop lit up a new cigar. I was just wondering what he lit up and how it's.
Because we're talking about J.C. Newman. I lit up the J.C. Newman Black Diamond.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I have that with me. Maybe I might light up for my second cigar too. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Very.
Well,
I mean, they did great. I was a fan of the original Black Diamond. It made my list a few years ago. This one's they did. I understand why they made some. I love the changes they made. I think the packaging looks better. It's a
clean.
fantastic cigar.
Yeah. And Matt, how's your All Saints?
Without question, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. I mean,
great comment by
Smokin'
Herb, by the way. I agree with him.
The Colorado?
yeah, it's a good one. I just brought that up. There's a lot of feedback in the chat room right now.
For everyone
Yeah,
who says that they
conversation.
don't care about cigar reviews, every time we talk about this stuff, whether it's scoring or end of year list, or there is so much, we get more comments about this, right? So I keep saying, well, no, I don't read reviews, I don't pay attention. Everyone pays attention to them. You might not like them, especially if you don't like them. You're gonna read them because you want to say how you don't, like, see, I told you so,
For sure.
The Giants scored.
Hey, they're not out yet. They're not out. What's the score here?
Whoop
28-6.
diddly do.
Hey, hey,
It's
someone
over.
in the playoffs already made a 27-0 comeback already. So hey, you never know.
Yeah. Oh, that was a mess. Yeah.
What, Jacksonville? I mean, yeah. If Jacksonville can do it, I guess the Giants could do it.
Yeah.
No, the Eagles are. I respect this Eagles team.
No, this Eagles
team
team's
is a little bit of a. I think that coach is a good coach too, even though he's a little bit of a clown. But
yeah, this Eagles team is one of the best teams in the league.
Yeah.
I mean,
I got to root for my Philadelphia brothers if they go further. So I have loyalty to Philadelphia.
Now, Coop, on your note, people not caring about lists. I just wanted to pick up some quick data here. Our highest viewed show in the last, I don't know, couple months, outside of a few of these how-tos, is the Smokin' Tobacco 2022 Cigar of the Year list. It pretty much doubles or even triples almost every other video. So people are obviously caring about this stuff.
They do. I mean, look, the countdown is my biggest traffic thing of the year. Why it's 30 days is because I keep 30 days of interest going with that, and then the awards are going to be another big thing. That's the other. So it's really end of years first, and PCA is kind of 1 and 1A. They tend to go back and forth, but lately the end of this was our biggest month in 6 years on Coop. It was the second biggest month of all time.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So I mean, people look at everyone's. If you look at the videos, you can really see the numbers are high for this stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I was looking at.
So, yeah, ours are not so much on YouTube, but we get the downloads are really where the Coop strength always is. So we do very well with downloads.
I'm lighting up.
Are you getting into your second cigar there, Matt?
Yeah, I'm getting it ready. I'm almost there with this Churchill.
No, and this Yagwa's just, I'm getting a really nice chocolatey kind of cocoa note off this kind of start to the final third here. It's been smoking really nice through the entire thing. The spice, this whiskey is 66%, so it's hot, and I kind of describe it as a nice cinnamon apple pie, and it really brings out the sweetness of the whiskey. Really brings out the sweetness.
Is that a rye?
It is. It's a rye. Yeah, most Canadian is rye whiskey.
Right.
So yeah, this pairing is really nice. I knew this Yagua was going to have some strength behind it, especially like strong flavor profile, being Connecticut broadleaf and Nicaraguan binder and fillers, and so I wanted something a little strong to pair with it, and it's going really well.
Yeah, this nice start for this Black Diamond as well. Really, they did a nice job. Really, kind of, I think, tweaking the blend a bit. They made it better. We'll see if this lands on the list soon. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna light up the Camacho Factory Unleashed Toro. Got that sitting ready on deck.
Is
this the one that Coop blasted on Dojo?
No,
no, that was a two. That was a two.
Yeah, that was the two.
Like, Mitch, see, this is why I love Mitchell. He is like on top of every detail. Because I was telling Matt about this story. I said, yeah, I was on Dojo. We did this like first impressions, and
dude, Coop got
Davido's
blasted.
Sponsor mine. Oh, and the whole Dojo community like revolted on me. I was getting right. So, but look, Davido's a sponsor of mine. I didn't think it was a good cigar. I'm sorry. It was.
You know, Coop, that when you gave it that score, and then you came on for the what was it, the draft? I think they were getting back at you for that. They weren't voting you. They weren't voting at you because they knew they remembered. They remembered.
Oh yeah, they remembered. Oh, I mean, so there were two things that got me the most anti-mail when it comes to a review. Okay, number one was when I killed the original Sin Compromiso. I gave it an 89. I didn't kill it, and people just blasted me on that, right? And then this thing with the Camacho was like Revolt City on me.
89's not a bad score. I mean,
but you should. It's a 96, and these
Dude,
soccer people who they're very loyal. Anything under 95, they're gonna kill you on, right? One person accused me of costing soccer the consensus that year. He said, if you would have had it in the top 10, soccer would have got number one Sin Compromiso. He's right. It was when I looked at Charlie's data, it would have happened. So
it's all your fault.
It was my fault that soccer got a.
Charlie just gave the Stillwell Star year 2022 an 88, and people are like, "This is way better. What are you doing giving it an 88?"
That's what happens.
It's like, dude, 88's a really good score. Like, I would pick that cigar up anytime. And he literally says,
Jay Davis said 89 is a great cigar rating. The Saka Nation is out of control.
It's like, you can't make 90 plus.
I'm going to say this. That's the you got to do. Here comes they have a big connection, and he's connected with his audience. He deserves credit on that. I like when I get that feedback because again, it's showing people are interested. They may not like what I say, but they're interested in what I said. So
Kevin brought up something interesting that happened earlier this year, and he said the review that caused a big stir that I can remember is Half Wheel's review of the Cerberus. If I remember correctly, Charlie did it, and he gave it like a 76 or a 77. And if you
Ben killed it. Ben killed it on our side too. Just so you
Ben
know.
killed it. So I was gonna say Halfwheel wasn't alone because Ben killed it too.
Ben gave out an 84, I think. Yeah, he didn't like it either.
And if you read, I don't remember Ben's, but I remember on Charlie's. I mean, if you actually take the time to read the reviews. Side note,
construction issues.
One of the problems with the reviews is that we spend so much time making them so detailed. And people see review and they go scroll. And they look at the score. And when it's and if it's a great score, whatever, they don't care. Oh, got a 91. That's all I care about. But when it's a bad score, scroll. 75. Well, I have to start making my comments. Well, did you read why it scored that low? Probably not. I mean, if you read the reviews, like Mitchell just said, that Cerberus, if I remember correctly, one of the biggest issues Charlie had was every single cigar he smoked had extremely bad construction and burn issues.
Yep.
Of course, they're going to lose a lot of points for that if it's barely smokable. I mean, why is it going to score high at all?
I
mean, fair is fair.
The dojo guys love that cigar. They gave it a top 10. So again, maybe they could have had a better experience. So again, but the funny thing is, Matt, is when I have detailed reviews. You guys have detailed reviews. But the best thing is when I get a call from the company, well, why did you give it that score? I said, did you read the review? The explanation is in there, right? There's nothing more I have to add to this. And that's what my answer will be every time. And I don't make excuses. I said, go in there, and if you see something you don't like what I read, call me back, and we'll have a discussion on that. But if you want to know why you got that score, that's what the write-up's about,
No, it's true. And at the and with reviews, we have to value construction at a certain level, and if it's just not performing well, again, another one on the soccer list, like I think they gave Bewitched an 84. People were just like, "What the heck?" And
that was the one that Charlie said tasted like a stale Whopper from 1995. I just thought it was so funny. Like, what the?
You guys read a lot more Half Wheel than I do.
I think my last review I gave out was an 84 and 85, and same thing is it was mainly construction issues leading to off-putting flavors, multiple relights, and there's just nothing you can do about that. Like, you got to be open and honest, and I'm smoking multiple samples, and when the majority of samples are like that, what do you do?
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny you bring that up, Mitchell, because I was just gonna say if not horrible of a score, but definitely not great. We just put out a review that Mitchell did on the Saga Short Tales Tomo 7 Tales of the Land, and that he scored an 84. So I mean,
It was that I've been a big fan of the Saga series. That one was the one that scored the lowest on mine. I know a lot of people had the same issues Mitchell did with that.
I
And
have
the
to be
funny
honest.
thing is, yeah, you have to be honest. The number 6 though was my cigar of the year in 2019. So, but that's a completely different animal what they did.
Exactly, it
And
can happen.
and
Right?
look, they are my longest time sponsor, by the way. Saga has been with me the longest. I have a long time relationship with them. And look, it happens sometimes. They've gotten cigar of the year, but other times it's not going to work out.
I feel like you almost, if you're not honest about it, you're doing them a disservice, because at the end of the day, that company should know that they are having issues so that they can look back and say, what did we do wrong here? How can we fix it to make it better?
I had that experience with a company where I killed their cigar. I think I gave it like an 86. And about a month later, the owner calls me up and he's like, "Hey, I want to be a sponsor with you guys, right?" And I'm like, I was a little surprised, right? Because I killed it. And we go through the whole thing and they signed the sponsor agreement. And he goes, "Hey, by the way, about that like 86 you gave us, right?" I said, "Look," I said, "I had to be on." He goes, "Look, we took that input very seriously that you gave." So that's part of
Yeah.
why I kind of went and because we wanted to make sure that we don't want to have a problem with our cigars, and he took that input, and he stayed with me for a long time. He's out of the business right now, this guy, but he's well, not out of business, he's on hiatus right now, I should say, but he was very good to us. So
but
and he had other good cigars that came out.
but Coop, right there, that story, that's the difference between someone who sees the negative review and they take it like, you know what, honest feedback, and you know what, we'll work on it, versus someone who sees the bad score and goes, that's the best cigar I've ever made, I don't agree with you. And it's like, well,
Yeah,
I mean,
sometimes, yeah, I mean, it's unfair. You go back to Charlie. So I get a lot of phone calls after Charlie gives a bad score and my score is higher, and they said, "Well, why did Charlie give us this?" I said, "Look, all I can tell you is that this is what my experience is. You got to have a talk with Charlie, but he has it in his review. But it's not fair to me to say Charlie's wrong because he's, again, it's a subjective thing. It's a different experience, and for me to comment on that, I could disagree with it, certainly by our score, but again, it's not fair for me to that we shouldn't do that with any competitor or go
No.
compatriot in it. Yeah,
I love how people call Coop for other things people do. Loomis gives a 5.2. Coop's getting a call.
Well, the best is when I walked into Alec Bradley the day they can stay. When I was at that meeting, I talked about Alec Bradley where I was smoking when he gave me the broadleaf. Developing Palace publishes the review for the Kintsugi. Alec Rubin walks in. He goes, "Hey, Developing Palace just killed the Kintsugi." He's like,
Yep, Coop gets the flack for everything.
Yep.
It's because Coop will answer the phone.
yeah, I know. I just saw.
This time, I'm glad with the awards coming out next week. I'm in Nicaragua, so that always the awards are worse than the cigar of the year list. When I put the awards out, I get so much whining about it.
Yeah, that one. There's already been a few people, and the rest of our awards aren't even finalized yet because we've just been a little bit behind on it. But there's already been people who are like, "So are you doing this? You doing this?" And oh, someone else did some awards and they weren't happy about it, and I'm like, I mean, hey, they're not my awards, so don't be mad at me for that. But which they weren't. It was more, but people, I've seen it. Yeah, it's almost like people definitely get more critical over the reviews than like the cigar like awards themselves, than like the factory of the year or like company of the year. I know there was
no, they get pissed about that. Trust me, I've gotten it every year.
Yeah.
On that, trust me, it's been worse in a lot of ways because everyone thinks they had the best year.
Yeah.
I know.
I saw some of the comments on Charlie's awards this year. I thought, guys, I didn't think they did a bad job with their selections this year either.
I was gonna say, did you guys read the? Again, where this is end of the year stuff. I don't know if we want to keep going down this road, but yeah, No,
I mean it's some of the stories and stuff. Yeah.
Did you see the Skip Martin debacle with?
I think we all
people
did.
are telling me about it. I haven't, but again, I don't read half well, so.
Yes.
But I don't, yeah. So
The only reason I knew about it is because, look, Skip makes great cigars and he does a good thing. I know at times he can create some controversy or he can be involved in controversy but I mean he's not the only one. I mean and it's part of
Riste, I mean,
doing
that guy
this.
is 20 times worse than Skip.
I know Shia Goldberg has made some statements on social media in the past that I know have gone deep. That I've seen. But I mean, in all fairness to Skip, I mean, I think it was Half Wheel did their Factory of the Year, and I don't even remember who they gave it to. Was it Factory? Yeah, it was the Factory of the Year.
Romacraft. They gave it to Romacraft.
Yeah, they gave it to...
Right, yeah. No, they did. They gave it to Romacraft, and then someone had commented and said, like, oh, yeah, like, they completely missed this. Like, that is an unimpressive factory and this and that. And, you know, to Skip's credit, I mean, it is not easy to build your own factory, run it, and deal with all of that, you know, while also trying to make good cigars. I mean, you get all the back-end stuff. And, you know, he took it personally, and he got really upset, and he went to social media, and he went to the comments, and you know, to be somewhat fair, I mean, I guess if it was me, I'd be pissed too, and I feel like I'd have something to say. I don't know if I would say exactly what he said, but I mean, I would try to defend myself too. But you know, at the end of the day, I mean, it is all subjective to a degree. I mean, Half Wheel's gonna have a Factory of the Year. Coop's gonna have a Factory of the Year. I mean, it's all gonna be, it's all gonna be different. But
yep. Yeah, I'll say this: they were our first small Factory of the Year winner, and every year they've been nominated. Every year they're in it. So, you know, again, it comes by. I think they smoked a little more than we did from that factory this year. And look, I got to say this: he's done a great job. I mean, I've never had a quality issue with his cigars, Skip. And I'll say this: he had a number 4 cigar of the year on my list this year with the Postani coming out of that factory. So they had a good year. They did, and I can look. Skip has a right to defend himself. If we're gonna throw darts out there as media or consumers, then you got to be able to take the darts back. And good for Skip for standing up for his brand there.
Agreed.
Yeah. Kevin said, I'm not a huge fan of Skip, but I don't really have an issue with what he said about that post. I think he was justified.
I look, again, I haven't been to that factory, but I know the quality is coming out of that factory. And I can't remember the last time I've had a construction issue from Skip's factory. I mean, I got to be honest with you. It's yeah.
Coop, Jay actually has a question for you. He wants to know, when you rate Factory of the Year, is it based only on new cigars or also the maintenance of existing blends?
Both. Innovation and quality. Innovation and quality are the two key things. So, you know, and this has come up with a couple of factories that, like, and people have noted if they got bad cigars out of that factory this year, that's not considered. But at the same time, it's not just because you came out with a whole bunch of new stuff. So that's how we rate the fact. It's a combination of innovation and quality. I'm trying to remember. There was one year. Last year, I think I got last, but I know like 1 year. Company's also similar. Like last year, the company at one where Jerry got Small Company of the Year, and they didn't do a lot of new releases, but they just kind of, I think, really their line extensions really hit well, and that's how we ended up voting that.
I don't know what just happened, but I was trying to cut the cigar.
You almost just cut your finger off.
Did you see that? I was holding on to the band, and I went to push and cut, and the whole band just went right up to the fucking thing.
I'll say this: when you, I don't normally give hints, but when you see the voting for Small Factory of the Year, I want people to go back and remember Jay's question because it kind of, you'll see how it went in the voting.
Okay.
We publish our votes, by the way, so we disclose everything, who voted for
that's
what.
good.
Yeah, there's no secret, so the weight table's out there. But I think when you see how certain people voted, Jay's question is going to really come into play with that this year.
Yeah, transparency and analytics is another thing that all media should be working on all the time.
Yeah, we don't
job.
hide. Thank you. We don't hide anything. There's nothing to hide on that. So, and then what's great about that is when I get yelled at, I'm like, well, look, I voted. I can say, you can see how I voted. Go yell at the other guys. That's, and I don't think you should yell at the other guys. So, but I'm just saying. It's it kind of takes me out of it. I don't influence any of the votes that happen here.
That's good.
Coop, I know we also wanted to talk about the national sales meetings.
Yes, national sales meetings. I want to talk about this, right?
I know you do. That's why I brought it up. I'm just kidding. I'm just getting you out of time.
And I've talked about this before, but I want to bring it up. Have anyone noticed, like, national sales meetings, like, there's two types of them in the cigar industry, right? There's ones where actually people have to sit there and go through PowerPoints, and that's kind of what I go through on my day job, right? You have to sit there, and there's a lot of sales data presented, and then there's these other ones where all I see people doing is they're in the factory, like going on a factory tour, which I think is important to show your salespeople that. But it's like they're smoking on the beach, they're smoking, like they're partying. I'm like, I don't know, cigar industry. I don't know, I don't know why, but when I have to sit through like my national sales meeting in April, I'm just ready to like hang myself, like do the Archie Bunker suicide. It's like it's so. But I see these cigar ones; they're completely different to some of them. And then I know, for example, Drew Estate actually has a very legitimate one. I think the Caliph has a very legitimate one. But there's some of these other ones I'm not going to call them out, but you can see them on social media. I'm like, what the fuck?
Maybe they're just showing us. Maybe they're just showing us the good parts. Maybe they don't want to take the selfies with the
yeah,
PowerPoints.
right. But I will say this: I think it's important to have your salespeople in the factory. So I give those companies credit. I just wonder, do they have the death by PowerPoint piece? Yeah, that's an expression we use in like corporate American, death by PowerPoint. Like you sit in these meetings and you present PowerPoint after PowerPoint, right? But I do think it's very important to have your salespeople go down to the factory so they can see the process. So I don't want to knock that, but I kind of find it. I remember there was one year there was a company called Duran Cigars. They sent that team to Nicaragua. I think they did no sales meeting stuff.
just drinking and smoking.
Well, I think I think every company's different, especially when you consider the size of the company and the amount of staff they have on the team and what their priorities are. I mean, I know Fuente, they're doing their sales meeting right now. They have all their staff down in the Dominican. I know that there was a couple other companies, they do it right here in the office in the U.S. And I think it kind of, I think it depends. I mean,
there's no question that Fuente had a very serious sales meeting on top of that. I mean, I know how they operate.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's what we're seeing versus what's happening.
Right.
Might be two different things.
Like, I don't like Gurkha's. I think they had theirs at the office. Drew Estate, I think they had theirs at the office. Fuentes was down at the factory. That's a very, like you said, that's a very serious sales meeting. I think, Drew Estate is a big company. They got a lot going on too. I would take that as a very serious sales meeting to some degree. They've also had some turnovers on their staff. So there's definitely some stuff going on there. But yeah, I mean,
but I love. Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say, but there is definitely some that I know about that it's kind of just more of a formality. Like they get together and it's like, oh, this is the sales meeting, and then it's more of a party.
Yeah.
And I don't think that benefits anyone. I mean, you really should take the time when the team, because remember, a lot of these teams, the reps are on the road most of the year by themselves. So it's not very often you get them all together to do team building and stuff like that.
I'll say as Crown Heads took they probably had a very serious sales meeting too, knowing them. So, but they were down at Ernesto's factory. But I think that's, like I said, I think it's important. A lot of those reps probably never were to that factory. So, and I think, like I said, I think it helps your team sell better if they're in the factory and they see this. I mean, it helps us as media. So as much as I kid around about it, I think there is I know salespeople who've never been into a factory. And, now you're asking them to talk about the story of this brand. It's tough. So I do think that there is a role for that. I have a little fun kidding around about it, but at the same time, I think it's extremely important to have your salespeople knowledgeable on that.
I agree. I think that's a big thing. I mean, I think you're going to have people out there on the road selling the cigars when they can say that they've spent some time in the factory, and they can use the knowledge that you get. Yeah. I've been in factories. You've been in factories. Mitchell, have you been in any cigar factories before?
No, I haven't had the chance to go to a factory.
So, I mean, when you actually get to go, there is a lot more that you learn and you see that maybe you've been told about or you hear about, but your brain doesn't really grasp it or fully understand it until you actually see the product. You're like, oh, okay. And then, from there, it's you use that information. So as a sales rep, I mean, that's a pretty powerful experience.
Yeah, it is.
I think that's a huge thing.
Yeah, now don't get me wrong. I think there's some really good sales reps that can sell without doing that, right? But I don't think it hurts, certainly.
But yeah, I still think there's some that probably not the best, and there's some that definitely do it better than others. But yeah, I mean, I think the factory is huge.
I think it's very important. I think it's very important. Like I said, I kid around about it. The kidding around aside, if you go, like, I know Nick Perdomo's taken his team down there some years, but I know Nick Perdomo's had the meetings in Miami, and he brings Dave Garofalo in to be a guest speaker. What a brilliant idea that is! You bring your top retailers in to talk to your team.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea. I mean, why? That's just, to me, that's brilliant.
Yeah, bring someone in that's like you're going to be selling to. You know what I mean? To give you that point of view.
Now, we bring customers into our sales meetings to do things sometimes too. So on my day job, so there is, like I said, I wish more companies would do like what Perdomo did with that, because I think there's a lot of value with that.
Well, listening to Nick, he even in live interviews, he's pulling numbers out to the decimal about sales and marketing and percentages, and I can just imagine the statistics and analytics he's got along his sale meetings, and I feel like he would make it more than just that death by PowerPoint. I feel like he's the kind of guy that you actually are like intrigued by what these numbers are and what they mean and how we were going to apply them.
Yeah, I think they have a really good sales team. And look, you look at that sales team, their reps are there forever. I mean, they don't leave. There's not turnover.
Yeah.
People say whatever they want about Gurkha. For the most part, they've kept their reps a long time.
Yep.
And that's telling me something, that they run a good sales organization.
I agree. And it's funny because when I was watching the Cigar Authority today, somebody made a comment. I can't remember who it was, but I remember making a comment. Someone brought up Gurkha, and then someone made a comment about, like, I'm not buying it, not because it's not a good cigar, but because it's Gurkha or something like that. And I'm like, I know that Gurkha's had some troubled past with some things, and they definitely had a problem with some of their license stuff that they did with, like, CI and whatever. But I mean, I don't think that they deserve as much flack as they get.
They had some issues. We know with Kaiser a few years ago. I think they're really
that too.
hard.
I wasn't even thinking about that, but that's also true, and that's a whole nother issue.
And I had Juan on Thursday night, and I think there's a good story he had to tell coming out of that. And the other thing is, look, you had the Revenant on your list. They did a hell of a job with. They did a good job with they're doing a better job with the blends right now. They're definitely getting better blends. The quality of the cigars is definitely better. Is what I'm seeing. I like that Pure Evil. I thought it was a really good cigar. I think where they have to fix Gurkha, I think Sindicato's a problem for them right now. Now that it's under Gurkha, I don't think they know what to do with Sindicato right now. And I kind of got into a little bit of that with Juan. This Sindicato was supposed to be the next big thing 10 years ago, and it's still struggling, in my opinion. And Juan told me it was a tough sell. He didn't lie to me on it. He said, this has been a tough sell. It's not an easy sell, he said. So.
The nice thing I like about Juan is he's an open book. He's open, honest. He's willing to say it how it is, and like even he said, now they are focusing much more on the tobacco than they did maybe a few years ago versus the packaging. They're trying to find this nice balance. They're bringing in a few people onto their team to help balance out the packaging versus the tobacco, and I think it's, and like you said, it's hard to dig yourself out of a hole, and they've done some things in the past, and. I think they've got a bright future.
They do. I think they're on the right track. I think they did a really good TAA release the past year. When Aaron Loomis says he likes a cigar from them, which he did the other night, I think it's a positive. So they definitely, like I said, they still have work to do in some areas. Don't get me wrong, but
of course.
But yeah, I think they.
All brands do.
Juan, like I said, he's a great guy. He's always been supportive of us. And I was glad to see the Revenant make it. I didn't review the Revenant. Shame on me. I need to review that, because those two blends are really good blends.
Yeah, and ones that I have not had are the ones in the fresh pack that are round, and they have the Connecticut. I've only had the original Revenants, the Corojo and the Maduros and the box press. So it's on my list to get one of those packs too and check that out, because I'm really eager to see how all those perform as well.
Yeah. Unfortunately, with the new rule, I'm putting it on Coop. No more sampler packs or samplers going to be eligible for the list.
No, but not even just for the list, just in general. I mean,
yeah. Well, the problem is we have some cigars that came in a very expensive sampler now, and there's no way we can consider them because we'd have to buy another one of these samplers, and it's very expensive. So
right,
we just can't do it. Yeah. So we had
Um,
to change the rule.
Another thing about Gurkha, while we're on the subject, when they were on our show a few weeks ago, they broke news of 2 new cigars. They have the Gurkha Connecticut that will be coming out, and that will be first seen at the Great Smoke in March.
That's the Ghost, right?
The Ghost Connecticut.
Big monster brand for them.
Yeah.
Monster brand. That was on my decade list. That brand as an impact brand, it was a huge hit for those guys.
The Ghost Gold is probably one of my favorite cigars they make out of everything
And-
they have.
well,
I mean, and it's made at PDR by Abe Flores. It's a fucking great cigar.
But I'll say this: Juan on our show, we talked about the Ghost, and he admitted that they need to do more work to bring that, because it is a good cigar, according to Juan. I haven't smoked it, so I don't want to say, but they haven't captured what the Arapiraca did on the first one. So he recognized they think they may need to make a packaging change. His thing is it didn't come in a gold box, and he's 100% right. That thing needed to come in a gold box. So that was a mistake they made, and he was very upfront about it.
Yeah, of course. The other one that they the other one that they announced was the Grand Age 2 that will be coming out in
Brilliant release too.
Yeah.
Affordable cigar, yeah.
$6.50. And the box will come with 60 cigars, one of each. There's a Connecticut, a Maduro, and a Habano, if I remember correctly. Toros.
Yep.
Standard Toro size, like I think 6x52, 54. And there's 650 each. And then the boxes, they're the special chests that they found. There's 2,700 of those. And that's all they have. But they will be selling bundle refillables, so you can refill the box when the cigars are gone, which is nice. It's really awesome.
Yeah. Like I said, I think what they're doing right now is they're doing what Drew Estate did. They're doubling down on the value price market because everyone's moving prices. So if you can come out with this under $8 cigar and you can make a hit, and I'm telling you, this is the way to go right now. You're going to move a lot of cigars. Some shops, it's not the thing to do in certain shops. I get it, but I think I can tell you there's a lot of mom and pop shops in North Carolina that really benefit from something like that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, especially you're always hearing about price increases, and as life goes on, there's always the tax thing. You never know when the tax thing is going to go. I mean, look at Mitchell. I mean, Mitchell lives in Canada. I mean, he can sit there and tell you right now how bad it can get. I mean, Mitchell, a $15 MSRP. What are you paying on it after taxes?
45 to 65, depending on what province you're in, and depending on how much the retailer wants to wiggle on their margins. Most are about 250 to 400%, depending on the province, on the taxes.
I mean,
oh my God, that's like a punch to the balls.
Yeah. I mean, I'll talk a little inside baseball with Coop here. So, despite what people think, we do buy a lot of cigars, right? And I'll tell you something else. We don't raise our existing sponsors' rates. Okay, they stay the same. So, eventually, if I'm not getting new sponsors, like I'm taking a hit, and these increases this past year have taken a bit of a hit. So I'm gonna have to be smarter what I reviewed this next year when I put the budget. It's reality, because I don't want to raise my existing sponsors. They're very loyal to us, and I believe if you stuck with us, I'm not gonna hit you for nickel and dime you, but somehow something's gonna have to give unless I get a lot more new sponsors, which I don't have room to take more on right now. So
that's a fair point.
There's always a way to take room. There's always room to say. I don't want to say it, but it's tough because I have limited spots right now, and I've turned some people down.
Yeah, it's all part of the cost of doing business, right? It's I get it. I agree.
Yeah, so so these price increases have been very steep this last year, is what I'll say.
Espinosa just announced one. They're doing 5% on average, I think, or the majority, or whatever it is.
So that's not the stuff that necessarily kills me. So we've talked about Davidoff's increases. That's hit me hard because we review a lot of Davidoff, right? And now, now the year of the rabbits are $50-something a piece. So the question is, that's the stuff I'm going to have to start looking at, saying, I don't know how much more of this. I have to be really selective what I review now. So.
Oh, Irving, we know. We know. He said, ask him. I'm not lying. They come over because
Oh,
they're
yeah.
cheaper. Yeah, we know. I mean, that's
Yeah, I do.
We
I do
know- oh,
all the
absolutely.
time.
I'm the way
It's-
Mitchell gets all the New World cigars.
We are very spoiled in this country, and we have it very lucky here. We absolutely. I was just in Mexico, and I saw prices there too. So
Anytime Mitchell has anyone he knows coming to the U.S., I send a package to them to bring back for him because it's bad.
Yeah.
Plus, it's not even just the prices; it's just availability. They don't have the selection, too. I mean,
Yeah.
there's just a lot of stuff that's it's not even available, even if he wanted to buy it. So
I want to just Skip's comment about employee discount.
Sure.
There is one place I'm not going to say who it is that I do have an employee discount with, but I don't use that to hoard cigars. I only use it to cigars I smoke there. But I do now. Do I have negotiated discounts with certain retailers? Yes. So, but not employee ones. But the one I do have the employee thing is, I just say it's someone local, and I don't take cigars out of that place at all when I do that. And they would let me do it, but I'm not gonna take advantage of that.
yeah.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
Someone asked a question. What do you think of? I lost it there. What do you think of the Republicans wanting a 23% consumption tax? I am actually not caught up on that particular issue. Coop, do you know more on that issue?
No, I'm not gonna get caught up on it. But what I'll just say is, I'm just gonna keep the party out of it. I hope no one does the 23%. I'll have to do some digging on that because I'm not.
Yeah.
But again, I remember a few years ago when CRA put out some alert, and they just reamed the Democrats, right? And I understand this was when they were looking to put a very heavy tax in, and I understand it was coming from the Democratic Party, but at the same time, you do have people who are Democrats that smoke cigars. Just don't bring the party thing into that. And I'm not saying that Kevin should have brought that in. I'm just saying CRA shouldn't be bringing that thing in there. But I think consumers have a right to express their opinion on that. But CRA should be neutral on that. And I was very disappointed when they did that.
That's true. I mean, they're in Washington. They're
And here's the thing, it's coming from the Republicans. This is coming from the Republicans, which is very interesting. He's saying that. If it is coming from the Republicans, it's very interesting, yeah. It's not just the Democrats.
It is interesting. I mean, and for the most part, I would say the Republicans have been usually. Well, also, is this on tobacco? Is this? I see. That's the thing. I don't know if on the consumption tax. What?
Yeah.
I don't know what that. Is it a range of different kinds of products? Is this a tobacco thing? I don't know. So that's why I can't really say.
We'll do. I think we should do some research on this and come back on the next show.
Yeah.
I think it is a good. I think it's a very valid question that's brought up. So, and like I said, I wonder if Charlie has anything. I mean, that's why I go look for Charlie covers a lot more legislation than we do. So, or I do. You cover probably more legislation than we do.
He's skimming through a lot of papers to find some stuff.
Yeah, we don't see the. I don't see the traffic on it, and mainly probably because they do a very good job on it. So it's I'd have to invest resources to compete with that.
That's true.
So, so they do. I encourage people. It's funny. I got a call from a manufacturer and stuff. I said, I'd go read what Charlie had. Is what I actually said because I didn't have anything on it what he was looking for. And Charlie did have something on it.
One of the things on the list was this was a popular news story that came out this week. The Ortez.
Yes, I think this was an interesting story about Indiana Ortez. So, I'll give you guys some background and then you get some thoughts. So, Indiana Ortez has been, she is the daughter of Omar Ortez, who is a cigar maker out of Condega, and he's had a factory for a long time. He's had some of his cigars distributed by Altadis under the Omar Ortez name, and he has farms in Nicaragua. So but as far as the brand goes, they haven't really had a big brand. Now, Indiana, her story is she's been working in her father's factory for a while. Do you remember Ventura came out with this cigar called the Psycho 7 Nicaragua?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We actually have that in Canada.
Good cigar. Wow. She blended that cigar, and then she left to go become the general manager of the Mombacho factory. Now, the Mombacho factory is pretty much done as far as being a regular production factory. They're turning that more into a a destination, a tourist destination. So
Yeah.
so if you notice, like Favilli, the Favilli brand's been off spin. They're going to be making their cigars in other factories. So Indiana had to go somewhere, and I think she basically went back to her family, and they announced she's starting a company. Now, here's my thoughts on this. I don't think this is so much of Indiana being the entrepreneur, a little bit maybe being the entrepreneur, but I think this is the Ortez's move, like what Plasencia did 6 years ago. And the difference is you have a face of the company now with Indiana, someone who understands the process, someone who's very popular. And I think that's how I assess that move more is this is the Ortez family now trying to do what the Plasencias did 6 years ago.
She's also willing to engage in social media and community, and her English speaking is relatively good.
Yeah, I've interviewed her. It's a
Yeah,
great interview.
So it's a
And
great move, I think.
Yeah, yeah, and she was honest. Well, you interviewed her with the Psycho 7, and they were promoting her as a master blender. She was very clear to say, I'm in learn mode here. I'm learning a lot at the factory. Even.
Well, and even...
Yeah, she was honest with that.
Even when you look at when she took on the position at Mombacho, she didn't take any form of blender title. She just took factory manager, right? Even though, she was, it was probably a team effort between whoever was there, but it was probably her and Jared kind of putting in the main inputs, and, they never took on that title. So, she's very open and honest about where she is and how much she's learning and where she wants to go, obviously,
Yeah, it's interesting because it's like I think she gets more attention on social media than from the cigar media. Like there's not I looked at the numbers here, and there was only 7 articles on Coop on her, right? And that's not including the interview, right? That's out of 12,000 something articles, right? So we haven't really covered her a lot, but I think she's done a good job at marketing herself, and I think the company she's worked with, and now her family, I think, really can benefit from. This is, I think, a very much. She's got the social media presence, and I think it's a great. But she's knowledgeable too. On top of that, so I think it was if the Ortez family is going to bring a brand to the forefront, she's the right person to be, kind of the face, and I'm sure she's going to be heavily involved with this. But she even said in that press release, it's very much a family effort that's happening here.
Yeah, they farm and they have a factory. That's correct.
Yeah, in fact, from what I was told, one of the farms is actually adjacent to the Drew Estate factory. But they have a cigar called the Omar Ortez Originals. It was basically their answer, Altadis's answer to the Rocky Patel Edge. I used to smoke those, like chain smoke those cigars. They were like inexpensive. They were under $5, and they were some of the best cigars I had under $5. Long filler, really good cigars. Eventually, I've gotten away from it just because I smoke other stuff. But Altadis came out with a Connecticut version of the Ortez this year. So, but I think they have a cigar called Primavera that's coming out. And,
yeah, that's her debut line, I think.
Yep, very good. So I think she's a great story for the industry. I think certainly we talk about females in the industry. She's one that certainly should be watched. Certainly, I think she's the real deal. So I'm happy. She's a great person too. Once you get to know her.
I was very fortunate to try most, if not all, of the blends that she did under the Granada line for Favilli.
They were good.
I thought they were all great.
I didn't have the box press one, but I had the 3, and I'll say this: I thought they were better than anything Mombacho had done prior to that point.
I would have to agree.
Yeah, I thought that Maduro was excellent that they did.
Yeah, the Lava was great.
Yeah, but apparently Favilli's kind of spun off now, and Jared Ingressano is going to be running that. But it sounds like he's licensing the brand back from Mombacho, but he's going to basically be controlling production. I imagine some of the factories he's going to work with is Ortez. I know him and Indiana are still have a very good relationship. So I think I think you'll see some stuff that he's doing coming out of that factory.
I would definitely expect that.
I just wanted to address this really quick. Irving brought up a question that Mitchell, I know you answered in the comments. What would you guys think if all reviews came together to revisit the yearly review and create a top 10 that they all could agree upon? Just your thoughts. And Mitchell had replied, I think that's the point of the consensus. Coop, what's your take on that?
No interest in doing it because I want my brand to be the differentiator. So I really I really have no interest in doing that. If someone wants to do a consensus, that's fine. But again, going back to what I'm doing, people want to know my opinion on this. And to be honest with you, I understand I could do both, but in the end, I really, we've actually moved away from talking a lot about the consensus on the Coop shows. I think at some point we have to put more focus on what we're doing. So
Kind of like your move with the whole aficionado thing this year too.
Yeah.
yeah, it was similar to, but boy, we got people want that show back next year. I'll tell you that. But yeah, like I don't do the reveal anymore, because again, I think it was taking attention away from what we're doing. And to be honest with you, to get now here's the second part is if you try to get all these reviewers in the room, like
I was gonna
we
say.
would kill each other over the criteria,
And-
because Eric's one of my best friends, but I think Eric and I would kill each other because we are so diametrically opposed to how we do our list, and so I think some of us would kill each other over that. I really do. So I don't think in the end we can all agree on that either.
Yeah, he followed up with, and he said to read this comment too. We need the who's who as a panel and bring a top 10 best American and top 10 everywhere else. I personally think this would change and better the industry. Every year you change the panel. I mean,
Who
That's
is
not a
this
bad
who's
idea,
who
actually.
though? Like that, like who decides who's this who? Because
That's the problem,
it,
and
it
that's what
becomes
Exactly.
a boys club. It becomes oh, I'm gonna bring my best friends in because they're the who's who, and again, we're all competing in a way, like, but we're all friends in a way, obviously. But when you try to make well, no, sorry, we're not gonna let you in here because you're not, you don't do it this way, and then you don't do it. It's like, that's not really what we want to do. I can
Yeah.
see the intention is nice, but at the end of the day, I think it would create more problems within media and already more, kind of divide within things than there could already be. So
I would say this: if I would even entertain that idea, I would have to stop seeing a preference towards print media in this industry. And we all know that there's the pecking order is cigar aficionado first, print media second, and online media behind. We all know it. We all see it, right? Every time we'll see it.
Yep.
So to me, for me to put that type of effort into it, when I still see a preference for print media, I don't really have it. And they have no interest in collaborating with online media either. But until the industry I wouldn't even entertain that idea until that. But then, like I said, there's the other problems of that where, again, I don't know how you like. I was also approached to do an alternate consensus, like by one manufacturer. Said, why don't you do the consensus and exclude certain these? And I said to them, I said, imagine if I did that, right? I would be crucified over being exclusive, right? Oh, you got to click. So that's why
exactly.
that's the problem that Mitchell brought up. It's not for me to decide. Now, I always thought the PCA should do it, but I don't think. But I think PCA should do it, but I think they'd have to do it. I wouldn't suggest they do it willy nilly. It would take a lot of work for them to do it. But I would say the PCA would be a good candidate if they can actually come up with a process to do it.
Yeah, the process would be very difficult, and again, like I
Very
said, when you start bringing in these are the best of this particular thing, it's like, what does that even mean? What does that even mean? The best of the best of media, like.
Yeah, and then you get into these. Like, if the PCA is doing it with retailers, look, retailers are going to say this is what sold the best, right? So
Exactly.
that's there, and there's a valid view of the cigars with that. It's just different than the view of the consumer. It's different than the view of the media person, and it's different than the view of the influencer. Not that's not important, but it's a completely different paradigm. So it's hard. It's hard. I think Charlie, I have some issues with the way Charlie's doing the consensus right now. But I'll say this: he has a very consistent process. So I won't. He's probably matured it a lot. He's the closest thing to it right now.
I think even last year when Charlie was talking, I don't know if he was on your show or if he was just talking about the consensus or what, but he even mentioned himself. There's obviously giant gaping flaws with the consensus, right? You look at it through the years, and there's brands that are showing up every year, and you're like, why is this the case? Because these brands obviously get their stuff out to people. They have a very loyal following, and as you know, Alan Rubin from McAllen mentioned before, there's a lot of reviewers that do have a bit of selection bias to what they're willing to review every year. And there's certain brands,
and that's a problem. Yes,
that there's certain brands that get reviewed on every single and make it the list. Whether and they're making good cigars. I'm not saying that these brands don't make great cigars. There's a reason why they're on the list, but they'll get every single one of their new releases reviewed, and then another brand will get one of their 5 reviewed. So the other brands are just never going to make the consensus because, at the end of the day, it comes down to who shows up on lists more. Well, this brand gets all of their cigars reviewed, and they get one on a list, and this brand gets one review, and maybe it didn't make a list. And so, it, again, comes down to every list having bias. Even the consensus has issues. It has unfortunate analytical bias towards brands that get their cigars into more reviewers' hands. And that's what we're finding. Because, again, you look at every single consensus, and it's a very similar trend.
that's why I made the decision to disclose the sample data and the sponsor data, because you can look at it now, and look, this year it actually came out heavier for the sponsors and the samples, right? But
By a very small percentage.
Small percentage. 2 years ago, it was the other way around, and I think the idea is, I look at it, I want both to be as close as possible. So,
I'm sure you look at your long-term data, and it comes out even.
Yeah, and that's where exactly. But I felt it was important to disclose that. So I said, if people want to say that, I'm like, well, you could go look at my data, and you can make your own conclusions. Is what I'll just say.
Skip made an interesting comment. Cigar aficionado comes across as a pimp. PCA would come across as a pimp also.
He's not wrong. That's why I caveated that. That's why I caveated that. They would need to bring in a third party to run that. They'd have to bring in like some sort of a firm to kind of manage that.
Yeah, like a non-cigar based.
Right.
Thing.
They would have to bring in like something to do that. Yeah, which to collect the data, because again, and then they'd have to. He's right. I agree with Skip on this. More I think about it, it's a bad idea. I said that.
Yeah, you'd be.
Yeah, he's right. Good question by Irv, though. It's a good question.
Oh, it is,
Sure.
and we do appreciate it too. I mean, having the feedback from the audience is
Very important.
It's very important. It's a big part of the show too. I mean, on the regular show, we try to do our best with the comments, but when there's an interview going on, sometimes there's more of a flow that needs to be there. This show is great for the comments because we can kind of stop and deal with them as they come in too, because we really don't have like a fully set guideline or whatever or outline that we're following for the show. So this show is great with the comments. So just a huge thank you to everybody.
Yeah, it's a different type of show. Yeah.
That was everything we had on the list from earlier. Mitchell, did you have anything that you wanted to bring up on Spare Notes today? This is your first show, buddy.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was everything. Like I said, we kind of got into it with the whole consensus prediction and stuff. That was probably my main topic of interest, and it's been super fun being on here.
You look great.
No, really glad you were here. Welcome back anytime.
This Yaga's smoking great to the nub. I've had very little construction issues with it. It's been lit well, and the flavor profile has been nice and consistent. There's been I love a cigar that I get kind of a nice, like these kind of main 2 to 3 flavor notes, and those background notes kind of come in and out with the transitions, and it stays consistent through the cigar. And yeah, this is performing well, and like I said, for the price point, very nice.
Yep.
Yeah, those are fantastic. I love those. Those are made at Pensa, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And what was that? What else? And you were smoking the Black Diamond.
Great cigar. Jason, really aging well too. I'm really enjoying it. So my burn's a little wonky, but that's not terrible. It's a little more jagged than I prefer, but it's smoking fine.
I forget, what size did you say you were smoking?
The Emerald.
Yeah.
That's the shorter, thicker one, yeah.
Yeah. Mitchell, I think those are the ones that you have.
Let's see what I have it with me. I don't know if it's got the.
I don't remember, but I think that's the one.
On here.
Oh,
this looks like a Toro. This looks pretty big. Looks like a 6x52 or 54.
That's I think the Radiante. I forget
Yeah.
what you, but yeah, that's a longer one because mine was shorter. Mine was
Yeah.
over 4.5. Yeah.
Coop, I did forget. There is one more thing that we left off the list, and that is the
Oh,
pure. That's the Puro Sabor preview.
Oh yeah, yeah.
We didn't even talk anything about that. I mean, that's where you're
th-
heading.
thank you, Alan
Yeah.
Rubin, for the wonderful comment.
Yes, thank you, Alan.
Yeah. He's Allen did great. Mitchell's doing a great job. I agree.
He's one of the best things
Um,
to happen to this team.
so I'm heading to Puro Sabor this month. Next month I'll be heading to Pro Cigar. This is a very unique thing for us to cover in the media. It gives us this is basically we go and it's a celebration of the Nicaraguan cigar culture, and they combine this with some social stuff combined with factory tours. And I've done Pro Cigar twice. I haven't done Puro Sabor. This is my first time. And what this like, people say, well, why do you go? Right? Well, it gives us a completely different view into the industry, in that we really get to meet a lot of people who are not visible in the states. This is an opportunity to kind of meet them and kind of learn a lot more about it. And I find like, one reason why I'm not going to TPE is because I got the invite for Pro Cigar. Again, it gives me a very unique thing. I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to cover on this, right? Because what I hate covering is, hey, I woke up, I had breakfast, I had a great meal, then I had fun at the factory, and I smoked, drank, and had a good time. And the other thing I don't want to do is I don't want to write about the whole factory process, right? Because it's friggin' overwhelming, right? So I have to figure a way how I'm going to cover this, certainly. And that's always so. Anthony, I don't know how I'm going to cover it, but it will be covered. A combination of my personal things with observations, strictly from a cigar end of things. But I'm very excited because, like I said, I haven't been to Nicaragua in 3 years. I haven't been to Puro Sabor. I'm grateful for the opportunity they've given me to do this. And there's going to be, at the same time, I'm going to see a couple factories that I haven't been able to see before. So I'm excited. I'm on the Padron tour this year. I'm not on the Romacraft one. I have to try to weasel my way onto that trip. But
Oh, no pun
Oh, I
intended.
see
or
what you did there. I
yeah,
see what you did there.
I don't even think
I
he did that on purpose.
yeah. But it's a great thing. I mean, and it's these are things that are open to anybody to go. By the way, but they're not cheap. I'm going to tell you, it's not cheap to go. But you will get a view of like a cigar industry that you won't get in the States, because the States is more about the distribution companies. This is more about the production end of things. And the other thing is, here's to be honest with you, most factories are not open to the public throughout the year. There's a couple of factories that are. So this gives an opportunity, like, to get into go see a factory that like for example, Padron's a great example, right? Padron just doesn't do factory tours except for this time of the year. Um, Ernesto doesn't do it in the DR except during Pro Cigar. So it's something, they're not cheap, but I highly recommend, if you're a hardcore cigar enthusiast, make at least one. At least Pro Cigar I can vouch for. I'm sure Puro Sabor is great too. And Puro Sabor hasn't happened in 3 years because of the COVID, so I'm pretty excited they're getting it back. And this is my first time going.
Talking about Mombacho, I think they're the opening dinner.
They're hosting us. We're gonna be there the first 2 days. And I've been to Granada before, although I haven't been to Mombacho. Drew Estate used to take it to Granada in the early days of Cigar Safari.
I think they call it Favili now.
Favili, yeah. Now, you're right. It's Casa Favili, but back then, like, we used to go to Drew Estate, and Granada is a really interesting town in Central America. It's got this very much a English European vibe to it. Very unique compared to the rest of Nicaragua. You almost think like you're in. There were parts of it that reminded me of Canada. Almost like it reminded me of Halifax, but without the coast. When I was there.
Well, I don't know if everyone knows this, but the co-owner, or like the owner of Mombacho / Favili is Canadian. He's a guy who started a beer company here in Toronto, and it's a big beer company. And he went down there and said, "Wow, this is amazing," and wanted to,
Yep. And I think, like I said, they're changing their business model now. I think, like I said, they're going to be licensing this out, let Jared kind of run with the cigar piece. But I think they recognize that Casa Favili has been such a destination that they can capitalize and make that a very good venture for them. So it's a good thing. I think like I said, I've not been there, so I'm very excited to go there to see that. And I haven't been to Granada in 11 years, so I'm real excited about going back to Granada.
Nice. What'd you have to say, Matt? Sorry, I kind of interrupted you.
I don't remember what I was gonna say.
Mm.
Shit, I forgot.
Well, I hope Coop saw the
And
Justin
by the way-
Andrews comment.
Yeah.
By the
So
way, but no, I didn't see it. So what happened? 'Cause-
let's do the replay. So Alan Rubin said, Coop can do a whole article on his dinner with Justin Andrews, and then Mitchell said, hopefully he gives him a seat at the white shirt dinner.
Oh man, I tell you what. If anyone wants to invite me, look, I'm gonna beg him. If anyone could give me a seat at the white shirt dinner, I will be really appreciative. Is what I'll just say. I won't give you a good rating, but I'll just say I'll be very appreciative. Because I don't know how Nicaragua is gonna work, but there's another story to that. Like Justin was busted on me for not spending time with General at last year's Pro Cigar. But look, I had Carlito invited me, and then Carney invited me to LaFleur, and all I get is complaint from Justin. How come you didn't come see us? But these guys all stepped up, is what I'm going to say, and they're very generous to step up because they do make it easier for us as media when they can do these little things. But I couldn't get a seat I can't get a seat at the white dinner every year at the Pro Cigar. I sit up at the bar. Irv would have taken care of me. He was there last year. Irv took care of me. He gave me some cigars last year. Irv was great last year. But he saw me sitting out in the hinterland at one of these like bar stools, basically. Irv can vouch for that, by the way.
Even the wait staff had probably better seating than you.
Oh, it was. I mean, look, and here's the deal. I'm 55, guys. I do want to have a decent seat. Okay, a bar stool is not. But also, look, I'm very grateful. I kid around about, but Pro Cigars, they're more than generous with us, so I appreciate them. Yeah.
I remember what I was going to say, Mitchell. Alan actually kind of reminded me as he made a comment about the Habanos Festival. I was going to say what's interesting is, Puro Sabor hasn't happened in 3 years. Neither has the Habanos Festival, which is also Habanos announced yesterday that they have opened registration for Habanos Festival. Now, that one also hasn't happened since 2020.
Yeah, and look, that's an expensive proposition. Again, it's open to people to go, but it's a very expensive proposition. And, I've been to Cuba, and it's a great place to go visit, don't get me wrong. But it's an expensive proposition. But the other thing I'll say is it's a rewarding proposition.
Yeah, we covered that, actually.
I think I've had some local guys that have been there in the past. We have some really, really hardcore Cuban smokers here in Vancouver who definitely spend the big bucks. And, I think a few of them have been there.
I do. Yeah, and I think John's been there but Nick Cirrus, he's kind of my de facto Cuban correspondent from LH Cigars. He has gone there several times, but he's usually my guy on the ground in Cuba. Like anything Cuba, I just depend on him for now.
Yeah. His interview with Habanos, man, he was just destroying them. He was asking the tough questions for sure.
Oh, the interview we did with the
man,
interview. That was Nick asked some tough questions.
Dude, they were squirming in their seats.
They cut him off. Did you see at the end?
Yeah, exactly. They were just like, all right, next guest. It's like,
yep.
It's
Nick
you know what can you do?
Yeah.
I'm trying to find where is
Festival
the
Factory. They're too choreographed. What do you expect? They gotta have some organization there. I get it.
Yeah, it's got. They've put on the show.
They got. Yeah. I mean, and look, even if they're look, I don't think there's so much you're gonna get out of it, and every factory is different. And to fairness, I don't think Alan's been to a factory, so gotta be honest.
Called
to a
out.
factory.
Whoa! Shots fired! Shots fired!
I gotta be honest. I'm gonna be honest.
He's been really nice tonight.
Hey, Alan has been well behaved tonight. I have to give him credit.
He has been, but I gotta be honest too. I mean, because look, I think a lot of until you see it firsthand, it's different.
What? Just being in a factory?
Yes.
Yeah.
You just went through it. Right?
Yeah.
You went to El Titan, which is a very small factory, and then you went to Fuente. And look, you haven't even seen like these other factories yet. So you're gonna get so many different points of view. And look, I've been to the factory several times. They choreographed it, and I've been several times where AJ Fernandez told me to put the camera away. So it happens. It depends on what it is. AJ was fine. I asked him if I could take pictures. Yeah, you take all the pictures you want. And then he sees me, like, they were rolling the H up in Nicaragua's, right? And he's like, no social media. And he's like, I'm sorry. He goes, please no. And I said, of course I'll put it away. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to respect that, right? At the end, they have factory stuff that they want proprietary, and
Sure. Yeah. No. And that's I'm always like, even when I went to go see Carlito, and I asked Carlito tell me, can I use the camera or not, and tell me if you want the camera off, and he was pretty open with me. There was nothing he hid. So, I'm grateful for that.
If I remember correctly, Pro Cigars, I think it's 3,000 that covers everything, like just to get in.
But they don't cover your hotel.
Right, that's before like hotel and airfare and all that. So just to do the events and stuff, it's about $3,000. Do you know what it is for Puro Sabor?
It's more. It's like $4, but the hotel's included.
Okay, so that kind of almost evens out. I don't remember. I had the price list for Festival del Habano, and I can't find it. But I do remember when we got the press release from Habanos for the Cohiba 55 celebration. That's not even one of the festivals. And that was just another event they were doing. If I remember correctly, when I added it all up, it was about, and correct me if I'm wrong, if anyone knows, but if I remember correctly, it was between like $6,000 and $7,000 just for the Cohiba 55 celebration.
I don't know what the price was. That seems like it's high. That seems very high if it was for that.
Now I could be wrong, but I could remember, because I remember seeing the prices and being like, wow, that's higher than I thought it would be.
Yeah, that would surprise me if it was that high, because that was a shorter thing than the Habanos Festival. And look, I cover the Habanos Festival through Nick. And through press releases, but I don't go to. I'm not going to the. By the way, to me, Habanos they do an incredible job with their festival. I wish we had something in the U.S. that was I keep saying we need a black tie gala in the U.S. I know you won't have the factories and the farms, but we need something in the U.S. that's a gala event. We used to have the closest thing we used to have with that was the Davidoff White dinner, but that was restricted to retailers and media. I think I'd love to see us have something similar with a whole charity angle of it. There's no reason why we can't do this in the US.
I think, as you were saying, JC Newman and their kind of like production of everything around there, the hotel, these things, the Florida, I think that's going to be a prime location for something like that. This thing that's, obviously, like you said, the trade show possibly going there to the future, but also these just general congregations of the industry for North America, right, in the United States, on the soil. It's going to be a great hub for that, and I think they're doing a really good job, and I think they see a future in that, because I think that's what the industry's missing.
Yeah, Mitch, you're right. I think that's a great point. I think they're going to have those types of facilities. That's a big building they built, and I don't imagine they're going to have a huge hotel there, right? Because JC Newman's not going to be in the hotel business, but I think they're looking to basically provide something where you could stay overnight, in town. It'll be limited rooms. They'll have the lounge and the restaurant there. But I think they'll have probably a ballroom there. I can't see that building's big. You've seen that building, man. It's huge. So I can't see them not doing that. And then you have that ballroom. That's a great point where you do it during Tampa Heritage Week. It'd be a great time to do it.
Sorry, I was looking at some information as well as the comments. Which building are we talking about?
The hotel across the street that they're renovating.
I actually haven't been.
Building.
I haven't been in it. I
haven't been in either, but it's a big building. When you look at it, it's big.
Yeah, it's a good size.
They're only looking at like 9. I think they're only looking at 9 or 10 rooms to put a hotel in there.
Yeah, so it's not going to be a lot of rooms.
But I could see them doing a ballroom in there. Like, hey, you know what? Where you can have a cigar. Like, people could host cigar events there, weddings. They're already using weddings in the factory, but I could see them, again, having more of a facility. And I think, like I said, if we were to have a gala dinner in the U.S., now what better way to have JC Newman drive that piece at some point? They brought Kara in to kind of run that whole piece right now, which I think is key. Now they have someone really focused on that whole piece. So I'm sure that the idea is to grow that as a business.
It's funny. We talked about it earlier in the show about Coop. You made a prediction that you think that the trade show will make its way to Tampa. on that topic of the trade show and its location, I know that it's been going back and forth since the last trade show, but as of right now, what is the feeling on the future of the trade show, at least in the short term?
The part I'll say is I believe this is going to be the last summer trade show we have. I believe that they're going to move this thing to earlier in the year. I think there's just but I don't think they've decided on anything where it's going to be. But I think in general, all the noises that probably they want to get this out, and I think they should keep it in the summer. By the way, I think it's a mistake to move it. I think everyone will complain about it.
Yeah, it's it especially becomes earlier, right? You get much closer to TPE, and it's like, what happens there? What, do people go to 2 trade shows in the span of 3 months?
Well, we saw it happen, Mitchell, 2 years ago when TPE moved to May.
Yeah.
And ideally, I think what they should do is a PCA long term. I think that May date is the best date to have it. I think May is a perfect time to have a trade. I think they got to get. I think that's years off though, because you have to book these things in advance. But if they can get that May date, I'm surprised that no one tried to grab the May date sooner. I think it's better than July 4th. I agree that July 4th is probably. But you're getting into the problem is you get into summer vacations. People do like to take time off with their family. I think if they go into the spring, it's too close to Easter, is the problem, and you're going to have issues with that every year. And in some areas it's still cold, and there's a lot less of a risk of snow if they moved it into March. But I always say TPE eventually is going to get slammed when there's a major snowstorm in this country, and no one can get out there. Like all it will take is for Chicago and New York to get blasted with snow, and no one will make it to Vegas. And I think I don't understand. So that's what I think will happen.
Now, outside of the date, talking about PCA, like one of the biggest debates is always, where should it be? The whole be in Vegas, not in Vegas. I think, I've mentioned this many times already, is that, where can we house this many people? The other thing is like, okay, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is their last technical year with the Venetian as the contract, and next year it's possibly moving. I don't know.
That is the topic right now. Yeah.
And
that
now,
was a whole. Yeah, that's what they said at the press conference. Is they had New Orleans earlier in the year and Vegas in the same time of the year.
But so, for me, like, Coop, you went to, what was it, eight Lounge last year, and I think, what's that hotel called? I always forget the
resorts.
Yeah, Resort
but they don't
World,
have
right? So
I think they would love to have it at Resorts World, but they don't have the conference room facilities. But Aficionado has been able to get away with it because of the nature of their event doesn't involve the booze is really the issue. Like they could do tablecloth setups in resorts for the big smoke, but when you put the Fuente booths in this tent, you just can't. They need to have a full scale conference thing for that.
I think Resorts World is planning to do.
It sounds like they're planning to do it, but again, those things take a long time.
Yeah, and so I think in the long run, I think that's one of the best areas. It's kind of like, it's a little segregated, which is kind of good, but you've got that area with the 8 Lounge, very accessible. A lot of people can congregate there, and if the PCA rented that out and it was like an exclusive PCA thing for the days of the show, that place would be slammed 24/7.
Yeah,
it would be.
Yeah, I agree. I think that lounge is a big lounge. I mean, the question is, could they lock up the lounge exclusive? Maybe they probably could if they plan it out. I always joke that the Venetian should have absolutely just give the circle bar to PCA for a week. It's why wouldn't you just do that, right?
They pretty much did that. Walking by, I don't think anyone was not from I don't think there was a single person from non-cigar industry after 6 o'clock.
It spills out in there. But let me tell you something. If there were people who saying, "Yeah, I'll go to New Orleans because it's earlier in the year." Let me tell you, the second people realize you don't have that circle bar option or Bar Luca now,
that's exactly.
They're gonna say this sucks. We have to go halfway across town. We were going over halfway across town every night to go smoke someplace, right? And it was just look in Vegas. No one wants to leave the hotel and you need to have something local.
You need to have something walking distance right there. People can walk out of their room, go back to their room, and it needs to serve drinks. It needs to be accompanying, and people need that post trade show socialization,
Yep.
because that's part of it too, right? Like you said, we don't have this North American gala that everyone kind of congregates to, and the two trade shows are alongside the business side of it.
Yep.
They're these extended galas of getting together with all your friends in the industry, sitting down, enjoying a cigar, and just talking, right?
Yeah. It's funny. I don't know if I told Matt this story. Mitch, you may have heard this on one of my shows, but um, I want to say about 5 years ago, I was out at an IBM conference out in Vegas, right? And I said basically I was staying over at the Mirage, and I said to a couple of my colleagues, "Hey, let's go across to the Palazzo. We'll meet in this area called the Circle Bar, and we'll have some smokes, and it's a nice cocktail lounge." And they're like, "Great." So they get there before me, and they're like, "We can't find the Circle Bar. There's no Circle Bar. What are you talking about, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's right across. It's right across from such and such." And they go, "It's completely closed." So I get there, and sure enough, they ripped the whole lounge out, right? Because they tend to redo the casino floor every few years. This is so.
Yeah.
I went back to my room. I put an article up the next like that night. Hey, Las Vegas closes the Champagne. It was called the Champagne Bar, right? And it was one of the most read articles in the history of Cigar Coop. My phone starts ringing at 5:30 in the morning. I'll never forget. Eric Espinoza calls me up at 5:30 in the morning. Bro, what do you mean they took the Circle Bar away? He's like, and then I'm getting phone calls all day. I'm in I'm in this IBM guy. My phone is just going non-stop. People were like losing their shit. So I went and actually did some. I asked a few questions, and they said, "Yeah, we're gonna have another bar, but it's not gonna be ready for a few months, and blah blah blah, and we don't know if it's gonna be smoke friendly or not." The casino didn't have a lot of answers at the time, but by the summer they did have Bar Luca open, and but the problem is that year they were doing the convention at Las Vegas Convention Center, so not a lot of people went there until they moved it back. But yeah, it was one of the most read stories. People love that place. They love having this congregation. And Mitchell, you're a newer guy. The access
Yeah.
you get if you're look, if I wasn't in the cigar industry, right, I would go to PCA that week. And if you want to hang out with people, just go to that bar. That you're gonna get access to people you never thought you'd get access to at an event. I'll tell you that.
Oh,
It's the best
exactly.
thing to do. Yeah.
Most of them are 10 people around them talking industry deep stuff, and it's a little intimidating, but yeah.
Yeah. No, it's and most of the manufacturers are pretty friendly. I mean, I went only one night, and it was the night after Matt got married that I went, right? And I only went there because Matt wanted to meet us there, but so Matt was doing his dinner and photos, and then I got there and Carlito was there. So I mean, but my other thing that happened, I think I told this story too, is I'm talking to Rocky Patel, right? And a group of people see me talking to Rocky Patel. They come by and they start they want to see what happens. All of a sudden, Saka and his wife start like strolling in, and the whole crowd leaves Rocky to go to Saka, right? Again, this is the power. And Rocky looks at me like, "What the fuck?" I said, "Hey, I'm here for you, Rock." Right? So I'm like, yeah, I didn't run over there, but it was hysterical when that happened. It was one of the most surreal moments I'll ever remember. And then poor Carlito can't even go to the bathroom. The guy. I mean,
Yeah,
the guy can't walk 10 people. I feel bad. You have to just let Carlito go to the bathroom, please.
Yeah. No, the Steve Saka sighting in the wild. It's like, oh.
So Mitchell,
Steve.
last year you partially attended PCA. Were you at the Circle Bar at all?
I walked by a couple times in Vegas. I was mainly there with my dad, just kind of hanging out and visiting all the other like Casa Fuente and Monte Cristo. I walked by the Circle Bar a few times, or the Bar Luca, and like I said, I obviously saw many faces that I recognized through lots of the lots of the shows I did. But at the end of the day, like, I didn't want to impose. Like, I didn't want to be that guy. Like, I still am a nobody. This is my first time on here, and I want to pay my respects, and I don't want to just budge in. It's like, this is their time that they don't get to see each other very often, and I just wanted to like keep my distance. And I went by a few times. I had some cigars in some other places and did some gambling. But yeah, I walked by. It was bumping over there for sure. But I didn't, like I said, I definitely didn't want to just kind of intrude on any of the conversations. And I didn't have any personal relationships with any major manufacturers or people like that. So the only people I did end up, because they kind of separated from the group a bit, is I ended up kind of introducing myself to Oliver Nouveau and Nelson Alfonso, and kind of telling them how much I was very fortunate to actually try an Atabay prior, and which are impossible to get in Canada, but I was able to grab one prior to this experience, and I was like, wow, like, I often don't smoke Connecticut's, and it's, the sweetness you get off that cigar was amazing, and I just wanted to tell Nelson, like, you make some of the greatest cigars I've ever had, and he was like, dude, how do you even know who I am? And I was like, I watch a lot of stuff, and both him and Nelson and Oliver, were very gracious to me, and yeah, very, very nice. But again, they were kind of away from the group, and I just quickly wanted to intervene, and then I kind of got out of there and stuff. So
Yeah, I think that's totally fine too.
Yeah.
And it's like I said, we had a chance to interview Nelson for a short time on Prime Time, and what happened is Oliver mixed up the time zones he was in, so he was an hour late. And Saka Saka always takes the last hour because he wants to talk on when we do that preview show, and Saka gave the time up to Nelson, which was very appreciated. So. And Nelson was a great. And then we interviewed him Bear did the interview at the trade show. I don't like doing the roving reporter interviews, so Bear's much better at that than me.
sure.
Yeah, that's my role, and it's up in the air, but it's maybe Mitchell's. I'm trying to not like convince him, but give him the confidence to do it, as I think he would be great.
It is a skill. You have to really be on your feet to do it. And I think you're better at it than me, but I'm not comfortable doing it. And really, again, the bread and butter of the Coop coverage is still the written piece, and we do an extensive amount, so that's really all on me.
Yeah, you write a lot.
No one else wants to do it. So we each have a role at the trade show, and I think we're all comfortable. If someone wants to switch a role, we're fine with that. From time to time. I do the awards at the trade show. Although I don't think I'm doing the awards this year at the trade show. It's becoming too chaotic to get people.
Yeah, you mentioned kind of getting all the awards, shipping them in, and distributing them out, and finding the people. It's a huge task.
And I'm carrying them around. So yeah, I mean, I hate to do it. I may have to mail them this year.
Yeah,
I have one award. I have an award for Hoya that I'm bringing to Nicaragua because I'm finally going to see Juan because he won Factory of the Year 2 years ago. In 2020, so it's 2023. I'm giving him this award for 2020 now.
Yeah, that's kind of how Alan Rubin mentioned the tangerine mojito at the Casa Fuente. Yeah, those mojitos are solid. I actually like
legendary.
Their original mojito, like the regular one. It's really good too.
Yeah,
nah, the tangerine's still the top. That's the best.
I think by far though the best place to smoke in Vegas at Lounge is that 8 Lounge. I don't think anything comes close to that right now. As much as I love Casa Fuente is too small.
Yep.
Monte Cristo's nice. I think Monte Cristo's pretty nice. The Davidoff place is nice, but they don't have the selection I want there either.
And it's small.
It's small, and a lot of it's outdoors.
Yeah.
8 is the best. 8 is the best place I've been to by far. It's the only thing I didn't like about it was the music was a little loud there. So,
Matt, did you get to go to 8? Did you see it?
Yeah, I've been to 8 a couple of times.
Yeah,
it's a nice place.
They have a huge outdoor area. It's awesome. They have private rooms. They've got TVs.
Yeah, it's bigger than people think.
Yeah. They've got that big wall up.
Yeah.
There's private rooms behind there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel for Matt. He had a rough show last year, as we know. And and we all have had those rough shows too. So it gets better, Matt. That's the good news.
Well, this year we're hopefully going with a team of 4, so it'll be. I shouldn't run into that issue again.
But I'll tell you something though. I'll just be kind of honest. The first year we went with the team of 4, it took a lot of adjusting. It took a couple of days. We did find because we didn't have the roles assigned, and then really by day 3 we figured out what the roles were, and then we went into it this year. So I think you're gonna have a little bit of that team storm form, norm perform kind of deal. You'll go through a little bit of that and kind of feel what's gonna work best for you.
Yeah, there'll be a lot. There will be a lot of meetings before the trade show, before we even fly out there, just so that everyone knows what to do and who's doing what, and because we really have to have a good show after having a bad show last year, because I can't have 2 bad ones in a row. Granted, I mean, there will be more manpower, so it's less likely because I'll have some fail safes in place. But, you know, either way, it's you're right. It definitely anything like that. It's going to be an adjustment, but we're just going to have to plan as best as we can. The one thing I'll tell Mitchell is last year you were kind of there, just kind of on vacation. That's how I experienced it the first time because I was in town for IPCPR 2019, so I wasn't on the trade show floor, but I got to see a lot of other stuff, and that's kind of how I was like, oh, okay. But then when I went for my first one, and then my next one, and so it's going in. My point is this year for you, it's going to be less vacation, and it's going to be like it's going to be all of the things that me and Coop were talking about.
My favorite moment at the trade show last year was when Matt I didn't know Matt was having a bad day. I said, "Hey Matt, what's up?" And he's like, "Don't ask, right?" And he's he's like, "Don't." I'm like, "Oh," and I never saw Matt and that was I think you were having an equipment problem. That's when Nicole was starting.
Nicole, when I ran into you, I was just so overwhelmed because I had Nicole at the IV place getting a second bag of IV because she was feeling sick, and I'm by myself. I had it was Kevin's wife filled in, Barbara, help me film because she was at Alec Bradley and they were like, she can go, like they weren't as busy. And then I shot a couple of interviews, and then I had issues with the camera and the memory card and then Matt would let me use the back of his booth where I could just set up on the floor. The
what
show floor
pole was, yeah.
Yeah, but like I was like, Matt, can I use? And he was like, yeah, whatever you need. So I went in the back. Well, there's a funny story about that, which I don't even know if Mitchell knows about this story, or you might have heard me talk about it. So he was like, yeah, whatever you need. So I'm in there. I got the laptop, I got the camera, and I'm trying to figure this out. And on my way to do that, I run into Coop, and I'm like, dude, I can't right now. I have so many issues, and I don't have an answer yet.
And I've seen guys have a bad day at the trade show enough to know. Like, I wouldn't take it personally, but I never saw Matt like that. And he goes into the back, and the next thing I do is I see him on the floor because we're interviewing her clots, and I see Matt on the floor in the back of the Room 101 thing. Like,
yeah, and while I'm in the middle of that, Matt comes in the back of the booth like in a panic, and he sees me, and he's like, I know you're busy, but like, can you help me? I was like, anything for you. I'm like, I'm already fucked, so what do you need? And he was like, and I don't know who knows about Matt's situation, but he didn't get his tobacco license in on time, so what he had to do was he had to buy his inventory and go through a local shop.
Yep.
To have his inventory on the floor, but I think technically he was not supposed to have that because of his license situation. So they had, the Nevada, commission of whatever was roaming the floor, checking on people, checking their licenses. He comes in the back and he's like, "I have a problem. I need your help." I'm like, "What is it?" And he's like, "I need to hide all," and he had the gin there too. He's like, "I need to hide all of the alcohol and tobacco." And I was like, "What?" And he just left, and he comes back. He's like, "Go under the table, pull everyone's shit out, and make room." And I'm like, and he leaves, and I'm like, "What the fuck is going on?" And he comes back with like this like stack of boxes and the bottles of gin, and he's like this, and he's like, "Here, grab some." And I'm like, "Oh," he's like, just stuff it under the table." And I'm like, "Okay." And then there was a bunch of boxes on the floor all stacked up, and he's like, "Take those boxes and then just dump." He's like, "I don't give a fuck if it's a mess. Just dump them into this cardboard box." And I'm like, "All right." And we're just dumping stuff in there. And he had like another tablecloth. He goes, "Go grab that tablecloth and just like put it over everything and then put everyone's backpacks on top of it." I'm like, "What?" And then he leaves. And I'm like, "What is going on right now?" And so I do that and I come out and he's like, "Is it good?" I'm like, "It's good." And I'm like, Are you getting like a visit right now?" He's like, "Maybe. I don't know." And then I had to go back to solving my problem.
Hopefully the state of Nevada is not listening to this right now.
Yeah, sure. Like the damage has already been done.
Sure they don't care now. He'll have his license this year, or will he even be there this year? Now that he's part of.
I don't know.
Yeah, all I know is when I went to the booth, right, I saw 3 people from STG there. One of them was Justin, right, and they're all sitting around like doing nothing, right. And Matt is like off, like Matt is Matt's like working his ass off with Kevin, right? And these three guys, I went up to Just like, what the fuck are you guys doing? I'm like, you guys are not doing anything. Like, what are you doing here? And then finally one of them went to go get Matt some coffee or something. I'm like, guys, but I gave Justin an earful, like, oh, we're working here. I'm like, working? You guys weren't doing shit.
Yeah.
Over under on the big four. Who's showing up?
This is actually another
0.
interesting topic. 0.
0.
It's still going to be 0 this year.
It's 0.
Yeah.
It's 0. And I don't know. Again, I don't see any signs of it changing.
So I don't think Matt will be there unless for some reason he gets some special permission to go just as Room 101. Technically, it's a general brand now, so I don't think they're going to want to go.
Now, how many
Unless
are at TPE?
unless they buy another company. Unless they buy another company. And
Who knows?
well, as far as I'm concerned, I said it last year. STG was back at the show last year. It was legitimate. It was a small scale thing, and they really weren't pushing a lot, but they were there. They were, and I've seen other people like wander around the trade show.
Drew Estate had people wandering around.
They had Davidoff had people.
Every brand had people.
Yeah,
from what I heard.
The JR people, I think, were there from Alta. So but they weren't exhibiting. The only person who came close to exhibiting was SCJ. I mean, they actually had a product there that wasn't a Room 101 product there.
They had
Sancho
2.
Panza.
And Los Talos Deluxe.
Yep, they had 2, and they weren't Room 101. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't know if they weren't taking orders, right? But Herkos didn't take orders for Ferriotego the year before, and he was there. So I mean, I have to apply the same logic here.
Yeah, and at the end, like, you can't really consider her clause under Davidoff, right? They're just distributing him, so they don't really have the power to tell him not to go with those things, right?
Oh, part of the deal he made with them was he was still supporting PCA.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and I think they've actually given him some sales support though with that. I think they agreed to that, and they understand that his brand, his business is different than Davidoff's business, which I don't think Davidoff, it makes sense for them to be at the trade show. They're appointed merchant model, so it's you don't really need to have a trade. You don't, Davidoff's had some really good booths over the years, and what you guys missed, Matt, I don't know if you probably haven't been there, but they used to have like a media day. We'd go into the Davidoff booth usually on day 1, and we'd spend the whole afternoon there, and it was great. There was a cocktail reception, there was cigars, there was presentations. It was really nice. I kind of missed Davidoff being there. And then the white dinner was at night, and the white dinner was always one of the highlights. The only thing the white dinner got bad is because they gave out awards, and these retailers would give out speeches that like were 3 times longer than an Academy Award speech, like 40-minute speeches once from retailers and how they overcame all the odds. It was like, how about just like thank you, like Jeff used to go up and he'd say thank you and he'd thank his staff and it was done. I'm like, but then these other ones, there were these long stories. It was just, but the dinner was. I mean, I got one year they gave out DuPont lighters to everybody. It was really nice. So
nice.
Yeah,
So yeah, that's what's in store for PCA, Mitchell. I hope you're ready.
Oh no, yeah, I know there's gonna be lots of work involved. Every person I've talked to so far that's said it's not a vacation, and I understand that, and I'm not, again, I want to prove myself. I'm not just here to mess around and like the media slogan. I'm just here to get free cigars. That's not what I'm here for.
Yes, you are.
I mean, yeah, that's really all I am.
Yeah. By the way,
But no, I'm here to put in the work, man. I wanna show that I'm can put in some legitimate work and that I do my research and like I said, I'm here to learn and I'm here to take in as much information as possible and hopefully bring what I can to the industry.
Yep. Well, Mitchell, I will tell you, we still will have fun. So don't think that it's just going to be like all work and no play. There will be playtime, but there's going to be work time too. So don't worry. There's going to be there's going to be some shit that goes down. So don't worry about that. But just expect a lot of late nights and not a lot of sleep for like 4 days, and you'll be good.
I have a child. That's pretty much my life for the last.
You're good to go. You're good to go. You're good to go.
Yeah, well, Matt's gonna be dealing with that. So.
Yeah, I haven't woken up past 6 o'clock in 2 years. So.
Yeah.
Slept in past 6.
Yep. So yeah, you'll be ready to go then. But yeah,
It'll be
it's still
fine.
it's still months away, and we'll be talking about it more. But it's funny because every time I do like a little check-in every few months, some things stay the same, some things change. What you guys were talking before, I don't know if anyone caught this, but Jay actually commented and said, expect announcements on PCA 2024 and 2025 mid to late February.
You're getting that from the horse's mouth, guys. So that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
I assume that means location, both city
Dates.
and dates. And I assume if the city has changed, that'll be an announcement. If the city has not changed, then I assume you're going to find out where in Vegas it's going to be.
Yep.
It
Lots
sounds
of traffic. Lots of traffic coming our way.
this is going to
Lots of
be
traffic.
this
Yeah,
is
I
this
can't
is going to
wait.
be big.
Anything PCA. It's the biggest soap opera in the history of this country.
Especially if the city changes. Oh man.
Or anything. Whoa, boy, you'll hear it. It will be. Look, they were talking about the PCA press conference 2 years in advance. No one wanted to talk about the show. They all wanted to talk about.
That was the biggest beef. That was the biggest beef because we were there at the press conference this year, and everyone kept out.
Can we actually talk about? Can we actually talk about this year's show? I finally just said.
Yeah, I mean, Coop. Because I was in the back row, and I see Coop up there, and I see him just doing like this. And I'm just like, oh man.
I'm like, can we shut the fuck up? You're not gonna answer this here.
The best part is at the end of it, they showed the data, and there's still just a majority, like a large majority vote for Vegas. No matter how much everyone says they don't want it, the data
Okay,
just
here's
doesn't.
what happened though. There was another survey that went out to everybody, and everyone then voted for New Orleans. I heard. So.
Oh, there you go.
Was that after this past show?
Yeah. Like retailers told me that there was one sent out. So.
To the retailers or retailers and manufacturers?
That I don't know, but I know there was a communication that was sent. But they surveyed the people. The survey at the trade show Mitch talked about is like, hey, was the location good? Was the time of the year good? And everyone said yeah, right? But then it was like, well, we could move the trade show to this time of the year in this place. People, they voted for change. I guarantee the people voted for New Orleans were not at the 2015 trade show, which was one of the worst trade shows I ever went to.
So Jay said you assume correct. We may even have info on 2026, but that's not quite ironed out yet. So Jay, let me just ask you this question because I know you're not going to give me anything too specific, but can you at least answer a yes or no? Do you know what city the trade show will be in as of now? Do you guys at least know where it is 100%? Has the decision already been made, or is it still being finalized? I know you're not going to tell me where it is, but can you at least say that a decision has been made at this point? Assuming.
Hey, be careful. You say something, there may be an article in Half Wheel tomorrow.
Well, I'm not saying he's going to say one way or the other, but I'm just saying, has a decision been made?
It doesn't matter. I'm just telling you.
He also said I voted for Anchorage, Alaska, February 2026.
Good answer.
Fuck that. That would suck.
It's close for me. It's close for me.
Oh yeah, you're the only one that would benefit from that. You're the only one. Everyone else is like, fuck, dude.
Less airlines flight direct there, right?
Yeah.
You're the only person.
You could drive.
Jay Davis, the very diplomatic answer. I know what the board knows. Damn. Oh, man. Alan said the survey only had two options, correct? It was just New Orleans and Vegas. If Miami was a possible option, I think that would win. However, I think Jay said Miami is not possible due to the convention center.
There was nothing that was presented at the press conference indicated there was anything but New Orleans and Vegas. There was nothing that we heard. We heard it was down to two choices at the press conference. So that's not a secret. They said it was either going to be Vegas at the same time of the year or New Orleans earlier in the year, unless anything's changed. But but that's what I heard. That's what they said at the press conference, and then everyone started asking questions about the whole. They started being like, I remember they asked, well, are you going to go strictly by the vote or are you using this as input? It was just insane. We were talking about this, so I was like, and I had all these questions about the 2022 show. So
Jay goes, you never know, Matt. Jay, don't even put that.
I think that's enough for an article.
Oh man. Jay, I really hope you're not teasing something that's real. Who wants to go to Alaska in February for a cigar trade show? Like seriously, who's doing that? Who voted for
I would
that?
do it. I would do it. I hate Vegas. I'd rather go there than Vegas.
Coop, you would go to I don't even know. You would go to
all right, so
you'd
on
go
my
to
bucket
Lebanon
list-
if that's where it was.
On my bucket list, I want to smoke a cigar on a glacier. My friend Stogie Santa did it. I want to smoke a cigar on a glacier. So that would give me an opportunity for my bucket list.
Paul DeGracco.
Hey, Paul DeGracco's in the house.
I'm heading to Vegas tomorrow. Kill me. LOL, it's freezing there. Yeah, but during the day it's like 64. At nighttime it's like a brisk 40.
Sorry.
It's not
Sorry,
that
Paul.
cold.
There's no Disney in Vegas.
Can you imagine
Paul,
if they opened a Disney?
What'd you say?
Imagine if they opened a Disney casino. Paul would be like.
Oh man,
Paul would move in. He'd be like, "Do you guys have any rooms for ownership?" I just wanna
you would
move
work
in."
there for free.
Jay Davis, Alaska was a joke. Now Calgary might be a go. Yeah, good luck.
Oh God.
Then,
I like Alaska actually better, but actually I could go probably to a glacier in Calgary. I would do it.
Yeah.
Mitchell, have
I
you been
don't
to
wanna go-
Alaska?
I haven't been to Alaska. No. My wife's been to Alaska, but I have not. We're planning. We hope to go soon though.
I mean, it's
My
not
wife
as
doesn't
far.
want. My wife doesn't want to go. She's like kind of getting traveled out. So make the wife
Coop,
happy.
you can fly. You can fly in here, and we'll take a cruise up there.
Yeah, go hang out with Mitchell.
I mean, I've been to British Columbia. It's amazing. I've been to Victoria. I loved it. It's beautiful. I took the ferry over from Seattle.
Oh yeah, nice.
You get off the ferry and there's that big conference conference house
Yep.
building. Oh, it's just the city was great. It's just an old English city.
It's where our Parliamental building is, right? So it's got
Yeah.
a lot of heritage and old school buildings there. So
I
It's
love
capital.
Victoria. I fell in
Yeah,
love
it's
with
beautiful.
that city. Yeah, really
Beautiful.
is. Yeah.
Sorry, I had to take that. But anyway, this has been another long show. This is almost a Cigar Coop show, pushing the 3 hour.
Here we
mark.
go. Well, yeah, but great to have Mitchell. Both you guys. Mitchell. You're doing a great job, and I think a lot of people are gonna be taking notice of you. So keep up the great work. And who knows? Maybe you'll take this over from Matt. If you like Matt, maybe you can make a little coup there. And no, I'm just
Wow,
kidding.
look at
So-
that! Look at Cooper trying to
we're-
start trouble.
we're in it together. We're
I
in
know.
it together.
Yeah,
That's
no,
right.
I'm,
Build
I'm
this thing
kidding.
together.
I'm kidding. So it's all good.
No. Thank you guys for having me on this. It's been a blast. I hope I can jump onto a few more of the
Absolutely.
spare notes series. 'cause
Yeah, you can
there's
be
so much
on all the time, whenever you want. You've proven
Whenever you want.
yourself.
No issues with that. Absolutely.
Thanks, guys.
Jay Davis, if
Yeah.
it's not 4 hours, it's not prime time. One of
Now, wait a
these weeks we gotta go 4 hours just so I can say we went toe to toe with prime time.
Bear has done. I know there's like a 24-hour thing we did a few years, but Bear I think did a 5.5-hour one once. I want to say, or 4.5 hours. He did when he went.
Oh,
I remember
man.
I woke up. I had to wake up, and he was still on. He was on a trip to Dennis that night. I woke up at 3:30 in the morning. He was still going with those guys.
Jesus.
So,
Anyway, I think
Alright.
this is a good stopping point.
Yep.
Guys, thank you both for being here. Thank you to everyone who's watching at home, and thank you everyone who's listening later on all the podcast platforms. Don't forget to like and subscribe on all of those platforms, as well as our YouTube channel. Follow us on social media, and as always, head over to smokingtobacco.com for more news and updates from the cigar industry. There will be some updates to the Cigar Family Charitable Foundation raffle. I keep teasing it every week because I don't want anyone to forget, like, oh, I didn't hear about it. So it's coming. Some of the prizes we've already announced. There's going to be a box of the 2021 Great Smoke Opus X. There is a limited edition ceramic ashtray donated from the Opus X Society. There's going to be a Rabbit air purifier. There's going to be something from Evan Darnell for the Red Meat Lovers Club. So the list just keeps getting longer. Those are the ones I can confirm for right now that I want to say. I want to try to keep some of them so I can slowly drip them out. But that's what we got so far, and there's tons more to come. So make sure you sign up for our email newsletter on the website to stay in touch with everything that we're doing, especially the fundraiser. I can't stress that enough.
I have a
with-
unique thing I'm donating this year, by the way. I think I was telling you about that. So it's gonna be something a little different this year for me.
Yeah, something different from Coop. That's right. Coop has something that he'll be putting in from the Cigar Coop team. So keep an eye out for that.
This
That's
is-
also going to be in there.
This is a big tease, but if it works out, I might have something very unique as well. I haven't even told Matt, so
Is it cigar
Yeah.
related?
it is.
Hmm.
That I'll donate to the raffle.
All right, you're going to have to tell me after the show in the green room.
I will.
All right, guys, that's going to do it. We'll see you back on Thursday night, Mitchell and myself. And I think John Carney is going to be with us. It'll be me, myself, and John Carney from La Flor Dominicana. So make sure you tune in Wednesday, 7 p.m. on all of these platforms. And we'll see you then. Take care, everybody.
Take care, everybody.